Hello there, and welcome to the Press Restart podcast. I am the Retro Room and can be found on the Retro Room at YouTube, where we focus on retro games in general, just having fun and a cool place to hang out, chill place to hang out. With me, I have the fantastic AR Games.
Hey guys, I'm Ash, or AR Games, whatever you want to call me. And this week we're joined by the newest member of the channel, who was our guest on last week's episode, and that's Sean, also known as Vacant Skull. Sean, how you doing, man?
I'm good, thank you for having me, and thank you for taking me on as a full-time member of the cast.
Yeah.
I'm Vacant Skull, for any of you who don't know. My name's Sean, and you can find me at Vacant Skull Archives. That's Vacant with a K, Skull with a C, and I mainly do retro reviews. So yeah, again, thank you for having me and taking me on as a full-time member, guys.
I mean, it's great to have you. We had our episode 5 podcast with you, and I think everything went really smoothly. You had a lot of great stuff to contribute to it, so I feel like that we're enhancing our podcast by having you on.
Yeah.
So I want to go ahead and address the elephant in the room, which may be hopefully not anything that'll cause issue. I am ill this day as we're recording it, so and hopefully by the time that it gets posted, I'll feel quite a bit better. But if I sound a little bit Adam Jensen-y, that's why. So I suppose in this case I'll jump right into the topic so as not to belabor the intro. We always start with a recurring topic of what have we been playing, and I'm curious, what have you guys been playing this past week?
You want to go
Would
first?
you like to go first? Yeah, you go first.
Okay, just trying to reply. I haven't really been playing much, I'll be honest. I picked up, I'll tell a lie, I picked up a brilliant bundle, which is running till, I think it's April 8th, on Humble Bundle, which is the Boomer Shooter bundle. And it's 8 retro Boomer Shooter inspired titles, and you can get it for as cheap as £9 or $9 at the minute. And you can whatever you choose to donate for it, you can choose how much of that goes to charity and how much goes to the publishers, and it's fantastic. There are 8 games in there, a few of which I already owned, but there was some that I was really excited to try. So you've got titles like Dusk, a Medieval, Ion Fury, and then there's a couple of new ones called Dread Templar, Hrot, which is like an old, really sort of Quake-inspired jank Eastern European shooter, which is really fun. So yeah, I've been trying those out, and I've been having a lot of fun kind of stepping back into my old kind of Boomer Shooter sort of comfort zone. So I'm a big fan of Doom and Duke Nukem and games like that. So it's been really nice to see kind of what the current sort of dev scenes that have been inspired by those shooters are making at the minute. And I can, like I say, highly recommend Dusk and a Medieval and Ion Fury, because those are just fantastic games. But yeah, if you want to check out a few demos, there's demos for Hrot and Dread Templar already on Steam. So yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with that. What about yourself?
What have I been playing? I've been meaning to play that Ion Fury, man. I saw it was on PlayStation now, and I just haven't got around to it.
Yeah, I'd heavily recommend it.
I'm a big fan of that type of shooter as well, so I'll have to check that out. I've mainly been playing more Elden Ring, and I think I'm becoming addicted to it. It's getting dangerous for me. Like, it's in my head even when I'm not playing games. It's becoming one of those. It's just refreshing.
Dreams about it.
Probably soon. It's just refreshing to play like an open world game and not be treated like an idiot. Do you know what I mean? Like, in that genre, because the game respects your intelligence and rewards you for exploring the world and stuff. Like, it doesn't hold your hand at all. Because I've also been playing Horizon, which I'm really enjoying. But the amount of times she just hints at where you've got to go or what you've got to do. Like, you'll walk into an area and she'll say, oh, I'll have to climb this, and the camera pans to it. I can't stand that stuff, man. So it's so nice to just play a game that's just throws you in the world. It's like, there you go, figure it out.
Nose leading, hand holding, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I can't stand that stuff, man, which is why I like Elden Ring so much. The world's great and the enemy designs. There's so much variety too. Like, I don't even know how early I'm in the game. I'd say I've played maybe only around 10 hours so far. Like, you'd think I'd played more, but I've started a new character and stuff. And there's just so much, like, every time I played, I'm finding out these new areas and stuff. Like, yesterday I got stuck on a boss and I was like, I'll just wander off somewhere else. And I found this pathway and it's just led to a completely new area that I'm just, like, obsessed with now. And it's massive. It's one of the biggest open world games I've ever played. It's like the map just keeps going. I haven't finished it yet, obviously, but I do think I still like Sekiro and Bloodborne more. I just think overall they're better games, like, as an overall package, and I like the settings much more. But Elden Ring is good, man, and like I said, I'm just finding myself wanting to get back to it whenever I'm on it. What else have I been playing? I've played a few things. I've been playing Shadow Warrior 3. I don't want to repeat too much because you guys know I made a review for that. So
yeah, plug.
Yeah, I made a review for that game. So I don't want to say too much on it. It's really fun. I like Sean. I'm a huge fan of Doom, and especially the two latest Doom games as well. And it definitely takes a lot from that style of shooter. Like, you can tell they were fans of Doom Eternal. But it's really good. Got some funny moments, very goofy. I think it's much better than the first two games, and I enjoyed the other two. 2 was like a looter shooter, wasn't it? I don't know if you guys have played it.
Yes, I've got the first two. I'm waiting to see how I feel about the third one because I saw the screenshots and it looked fantastic, and all I could think was it just looks like Doom Eternal.
It does, and man. They take a lot from Doom, but
it just, some of it gave me, for some reason, I know most people would say that's a good thing, but it just gave me that sinking feeling of copying someone's homework.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. They're definitely self-aware of it. Like, they know, they don't try and hide it. There's like references, and you can tell they know exactly what type of game they made. But I think it benefits it. Like, it's much better than 2, at least for me, and I enjoyed 2. I just think that kind of formula for that series fits better than like a Borderlands style co-op game.
Oh, definitely. Something weird. I noticed just quickly while you're on Shadow Warrior 3. Say about that comparison with Doom Eternal. Would I be right? Because I've seen a couple of the cutscenes that you showed in it. Would it be right to say, like, gameplay wise, it's like Doom Eternal, cutscene wise, and the way the story plays out, it's more like the DMC Devil May Cry reboot? So I got a heavy like Devil May Cry reboot vibe with like New Dante in low wangs.
I didn't get that while playing it, but now you've mentioned it, I can understand why you'd say that.
In just the way, just the shots and the way kind of the new low wang is characterized with this kind of like more youthful kind of.
That makes a lot of sense. Like, I'm not a huge. I said in my review, I'm not like a huge fan of the series or the character, because I know a lot of people have had issues with him having a different voice actor and stuff. But now that you say that, I could understand someone looking at that and thinking that similar thing as the DMC reboot. But yeah, definitely as the game itself, it's just Doom in a different setting, which it's not as polished or as fluid, but it is a lot of fun, man, especially if you like that type of shooter. Part of me is like, it's unfair to compare it to Doom because of how good Doom is, but then at the same time they blatantly copy Doom in some way, so you can't not compare it to that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's inevitable. I played it on PS now, so if anyone that is interested and you don't want to spend £40 on it, you can get it for like £8 right now if you wanted to just get that for a month and just check it out. But it's a lot of fun. It's no Doom, but it's good in its own ways. Other than that, I played some Cuphead over on my Twitch, and yesterday I played a bit of Team Sonic Racing, which it's good. I'm not a fan of the team mode, I just play the single races. It's not as good as Sonic All-Stars Racing Transformed, you know, the 360 game, PS3. Yeah. It's not as good as that. I just wish Sega would have made a direct sequel to that game instead of this. It just had more variety than just Sonic characters and Sonic tracks. But yeah, that's fun too. That's all I've really been playing, jumping between those and just working on reviews and stuff. Yeah.
What about you, Retro?
So I've been jumping back and forth in a bunch of different games. Just because I guess that's kind of how I've played, or how I'm playing right now in that state of mind. So I've obviously been continuing with Scoutfold, which I did put it up in the previous episode, I couldn't remember the name of it, but I did put it up there, and Infernax. But I've also started another playthrough with DMC5, which I very much enjoyed. And then, of course, for my kind of a retro thing, Evo, Search for Eden for the Super Nintendo.
Oh wow, that's really nice.
That's been pretty interesting. I mean, it gets repetitive, but it's worth it to see what's going to happen next. So for anybody who's unfamiliar, Evo's it's kind of it's an evolution game. I don't know how else to really describe it. And essentially, your job as this little creature is to go and attack other creatures that you're able to take on, and then you can basically get points from the consumption of those creatures to evolve your creature into something bigger. And you get to choose from a list of like 2 or 3 or 4 items, where it's usually 3, I think, where hey, do you want to do this, do you want to do this, do you want to do this? And so like if you have your little dolphin, you can choose to give it this extra dorsal fin, or you can choose to give it this extra, and it's really, really cool. I don't know why I hadn't really given it attention, but it's pretty fun. It's actually pretty cool. It's for the most part, the repetitive part is your job is just to go out and fight these creatures and consume them, but it's always worth it to see what's going to happen next, like what new evolution you want to give your character, and it changes the sprite too, so you know what your character looks like, and your character will physically change to match the evolution that you've given it too. So I don't know, I find stuff like that really, really interesting, but it's a lot of fun. But apart from that, honestly, those have kind of been, apart from the repetitive ones, the new ones on the docket are legitimately just Evo and Devil May Cry 5, going through it as Virgil, and doing that mode. For anybody who hasn't played Devil May Cry 5, it's Capcom, it's beautiful, like most of their games these days have been. It's fast-paced, the music is great, everything about that game was, you guys mentioned DMC, but after coming back from DMC to Devil May Cry 5, while DMC wasn't a bad game, I think that all of the things that made Devil May Cry's 1 through 4, 1, 3, and 4 charming, are full force present in this one. And then for anybody who's interested in the story from Devil May Cry 4 at all, and are interested in what was the goings on of Nero and what kind of happened after 4, it was nice that they decided to just pick this up where it left off. And I always love when there's a Virgil mode. I always love to play the other side of the fence. So
I want to ask you guys a question about Devil May Cry 5, because I really enjoyed that game when I first played it, but I can't stand V. Do you guys like his sections in that game and playing as that character? What do you guys think about that character and the way he plays and stuff?
I'll just jump in just so I can quickly say I don't have DMC5 yet, so I'm going to quickly bow out of this opinion.
No, yeah, it's so my opinion. So this is going to sound, I don't know if this is going to sound like a cop out or not. I didn't mind V. I didn't mind his sections. His sections are definitely much more stilted because I don't want to spoil. Game's a couple of years old. I guess I can say without spoiling that V is, the story of him is that he's physically frail. But he's a powerful conjurer, I suppose would be the appropriate word.
Yeah.
I didn't mind his sections. They were a little bit tedious, but I guess most of my focus during his section was into the mystery of his character. And when you get those insights and eventually the revelation, and what all's going on and how that works together, and so on and so forth. And yet again, I'm not spoiling anything. I guess I kind of, the tedium was kind of overtaken by the story, because it was like, okay, this, I guess I was more aware of when I was playing as V, and the mystery kind of made it worth it for me. The resolution of mystery kind of made it worth it for me. But that's probably a niche piece. I mean, if I look at it gameplay specific, yeah, it's very tedious.
That's what I mean. I just wasn't a fan of his gameplay. I feel like he just completely slowed the game down. Like, I love that game. Besides every section he was in, not so much the story. It's just I feel like it was so different, and I get that was the point. They were trying to change it up. I just didn't think it necessarily fit the series either. I don't know. It didn't sell my opinion on it. I think that game's great, and I hope they're working on 6 or a sequel of some kind. But yeah, I always wondered like about that character and stuff, and if anyone else ever thought the same way.
No, yeah. As far as gameplay goes, I completely agree with you. I think he's a little bit more tedious than he needs to be. But yeah, I mean, part of me was a little bit fanboy too, though. At the same time, so I was probably willing to forgive more than I should have.
Yeah.
But I was stoked over like them having brought back the. He's not the original. I know from 1, but 2 on the voice actor, like that right there for Dante. That just huge. That was a huge deal for me. So I was like, I hadn't even booted the game up, and having heard that news, I was sitting there in massive applause until my hands bled.
Isn't the guy who voices Dante the guy who voices Ken in Street Fighter?
Yeah, same guy.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yep. So
cool. I did want to ask Sean something real quick too about is it Dusk? Is that out on console yet?
It should be.
Okay, I'll have to take a look at that.
Tell you what, leave it with me. While we're talking, I'll have a quick search.
Okay. Cool.
But I'm pretty sure it was. I know there's a Switch port. I know Dusk.
I need to check them out, man. I love those old school shooters. I've been playing Quake.
Dusk is absolutely fantastic. No, PC, the only console it's out for is Switch.
Oh, it's okay, I can still
Which
manage to
feels
play
a bit like the kind of... So, it feels like they could easily, if they could bring it out for Switch, they could easily bring it out for Xbox or PlayStation.
Yeah, exactly, definitely.
But yeah, I mean, for boomer shooters like that, or boomer shooter tributes like that, it's always going to be sort of PC. It's going to be your best bet because of the speed of the aiming and the precision. It's always going to be better. But that's a different conversation altogether. It just seems a bit weird that they choose to keep it console exclusivity to a Switch.
I feel like that happens with a few things. I feel like it's always Switch first when it comes to some console ports. But I don't know.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I think was Wonderful 101. Was that a case of or Astral Chain? That's a Switch exclusive? Isn't
that's a Switch exclusive. I think.
Yeah, that's another one that feels like it should be. Could be viable on all consoles, really. But
thought the same about that Monster Hunter game that was Switch exclusive too. Was it Rise? Because Monster Hunter World's on everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
I thought that about Rise. I was like, why is this an exclusive?
Did World come out on Switch, or was Rise kind of the replacement? We know the Switch isn't as powerful, so
I think that was
now Rise
case,
instead.
I don't think World's on the Switch.
You thought Joy-Con drift was bad? Wait till your hand set fire. Here's Monster Hunter World on the Switch.
I didn't mean to cut you off, by the way, Retro. If you had anything more to add about Devil May Cry or anything.
Oh no, yeah, no. I was just saying that I had fanboyed quite a bit over. I mean, I was fanboying over Ruben Langdon having come back to it. And then of course they did the it makes me want to watch. I have the anime of it, and I want to go back and now watch that. Last time I watched it was probably when it came out, 07, 08, something like that.
Hey, there's an anime.
Yeah.
It's
I haven't seen it, but I know it exists. I think there's also a Dead Space anime, isn't there?
Yeah.
What?
Yep, there is. It's pretty good too.
Are you serious? There's a Dead Space one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm looking for that.
I believe Dead Space. I don't think the Dead Space one, at least the one that I have, is an episodic. It's like an anime style movie. And then,
I didn't know that.
And then the Devil May Cry is episodic. It's fairly short. I think it's only like 15, 20 episodes. I can't remember. I think it's on 3 discs. And each of those
I don't bother discriminating when I say anime. I just mean the general sort of scope of episodic movie or OVA or anything like that. It's just,
Yeah. No, you're speaking to the animatic style. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I just, but yeah, I mean, the Dead Space one I remember being pretty. I say pretty good. I don't remember a ton about it apart from that it was amply bloody and gory, as you would expect something from Dead Space to need to be. And then, of course, like I said, the Devil May Cry one was I had a lot of fun with that one too. There's this 10th episode, which kind of went right up my alley with them having like an enchanted, and I mean that in the mesmerizing / hypnotic way, poker game, and I thought that was fun.
Okay. Have to. I mean, you've sold me on it right there. I'll be honest.
I like. Well, and for anybody who is aware, I mean, cards are another thing I like to do. So that's, if you can do it well. I mean, that's why I liked the second season of Ghost in the Shell better than the first season, when they had the scene where it shows, and I believe it's Saito, when it shows the scene of where the oh shoot, I can't think of her name, but she shoots out Saito's eye from this like crooked
Kusanagi?
Yes, thank you. And she shoots his eye out from this like post this like epic poker face game, epic poker game where they integrate the whole poker face thing, and so like it's like that's my favorite episode automatically because they did something cool with poker, and then it became an allegory for an actual So, I mean, you have to do it well, but if you have cards in it and you have poker and you have stuff like that in it, I'm more inclined to watch it. And probably also discriminate less against it. So
fair enough. Have you? I'm guessing you will have seen the Great Pretender.
I don't know that I have seen that, but now that you've brought it to my attention, I should.
It's an anime about a con man.
Oh,
So
really?
I haven't seen it myself, but you know, it sounds like something that if any anime was going to include cards that wasn't Bakano, which again is a great little story about gamblers and gangsters, I recommend checking those two out if that's what you're into.
Heck yes, that sounds. Oh, I mean, now I'm taking a look at it. The style's fine, and then apparently Rotten Tomatoes gave it 100%. You don't really get that too easily. Dang. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna take a look at this then. It's. I guess it's on Netflix.
You're gonna watch it right now.
Yeah. So you guys have got this. We'll see you later. No, it's. I hadn't seen that, but it looks like it's fairly recent, so I don't feel as bad because I feel like when I was I feel like that my young adult self really enjoyed anime a lot more, and I say this a lot more avidly perhaps than my older adult self has been able to, and partially because of the content. Because at that time it was like when Cowboy Bebop was coming out, and of course you had the Devil May Cry there, which is early 2000s, and you have I'm trying to think, Samurai Champloo, those types.
Yeah, there's loads of sort of. I think it's how would I best describe it? Western kind of anime takes on Western media. So you had like Devil May Cry. I think there was a Witchblade anime that was sort of circulating, and I think it was sort of becoming more widely known. I mean, I know the early to mid 90s did a lot for bringing anime over to the West.
Mm-hmm. Trigun was another big one around that time that I was.
Trigun, absolutely love Trigun.
I was a bigger fan of the first half than I was the resolution, but I mean, I really liked Vash's character and the whole, mysteriously impressive.
Yeah, it was great until I started taking the story seriously, basically.
Right, yeah, and then it really like Hideo Kojima'd its way off a cliff. Which, to be fair, I should add that to my gameplay list. I do like Kojima stuff. I've not been playing Death Stranding again, which I should, just because the tedium of that game had frustrated me. I did start a new playthrough in MGS5.
I need to start my first playthrough on that game.
I was obsessed with that game when it came out, man. MGS5, I couldn't put it down.
I mean, I don't know if any of you guys are fans or how aware you are of the Splinter Cell franchise from early 2000s.
I know of it. That's about as far as it goes. I bought them for the collection.
Hey, I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said there, Ash.
Sorry. I just enjoyed them back in the day, like more of a casual fan of them, like the first few.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, I was a pretty good, pretty big fan of them. Introduced to me by one of my friends. And he knows them even still now. 20 years later, just about. He knows them in an encyclopedic way that I could never. But for anybody who isn't familiar, they're stealth action games, and they've progressively gotten more less linear, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So they have generally the objective is to get through as quiet as you can, and there are some areas where you're forced to go and take what they call fifth freedom, which is basically to kill and shoot and be a little noisy. And then in the newer versions, you can take a loud path or a quiet path and get different badges and rankings and such. I felt like MGS5 in because we've been waiting for Splinter Cell for so long, since 2013 when the last one came out. I think MGS5 kind of filled that gap in a fairly timely fashion.
You guys noticed that stealth's kind of gone, besides Hitman? That genre's kind of faded.
I wouldn't even call Hitman stealth. The way Hitman plays now, I'd call it more of like a gory puzzle game, where like setting up your own little violent Rube Goldberg machine, and just watching all the pieces fall into place.
That's true. Besides that, I feel like nothing comes to mind when I think of stealth games anymore. There's no Metal Gear, no Splinter Cell. Just gone. Thief, even Thief. Remember that game?
I love Thief. I was.
You ever played the reboot, the one like early PS4 like launch kind of?
Yes, I was. It's not bad, but I wasn't.
It's not as good as the old ones.
I was a big fan of the original ones, and then Deadly Shadows came out, and it was on the console, and I thought that was. Like, it was a give and take. I prefer console to PC personally. I don't want anyone to shoot me for that. But PC
attempts.
But I'm old fashioned, so PC for me is point and click Sierra games and Doom maybe. But now that
I'm the same.
But like now now that we're consoles and controllers are fine. I'm not really interested in how many DPI to get that perfect between the eyes shot your mouse has, and if I can play it and it works well on the controller, then I'm happy. And when they brought Thief to it, I was much the same way. Of course, that's the early 2000s. It was like 2003 or something, 2002. I thought it was a lot of fun, and then after that disappeared until 2014, and then the new one came out, and I was like, oh, it feels like every other first-person, somewhat pseudo-stealth action game. So, the lead character had a great name, and that's about it.
Oh, Garrett.
Yeah, that's good.
Is it still Garrett for the reboot?
Yeah, it's still Garrett, and that's my name. So I was.
Oh, okay.
I was a fan of that. The immersion was my involuntary suspension of disbelief was even more involuntary, because I hear people randomly saying my name, and I'm like, and that's the thing too. Like, my days would consist of going and sneaking in a window and taking out different various things of silver, and then running across the rooftops, and then there's a little odd thing there, got to get past this person so they don't see me, and all that stuff, and I'm hearing voices whisper behind me and all that, and then I'd go home and I'd play Thief. So but
you know what, I saw it coming and it still caught me off guard.
But it really was that suspend that it is different when they get your name, when your name's in it. Like,
I'm the same with Evil Dead. That's like the only cool character I can think of that's called Ash. That's not that like little shithead from Pokemon.
Well, I was gonna say I was gonna say Pokemon. I don't know. Pokemon was, and I'm gonna say this with quotes. I'm not that old, but it's after my time, so I don't know a lot about it. But I was gonna say that he's considered very popular.
I'm just not a fan, which is why I'd rather reference Evil Dead.
No, that's the most awesome Ash, as far as I've known in media, that there could be, with the exception of you now, who are in media.
I've got a chainsaw arm, but
and then that's well, and then I hate this, and I'm saying it. I was going to try to think of a Shaun, and I'm sure there are several of those, but the one that comes to mind is
Shaun of the Dead.
It wasn't, though. It was actually when Ethan.
Shaun of the Dead came to mind. Sorry, Retro.
No, that's okay. I mean, I love Shaun of the Dead, but that wasn't the first one that came to mind. The first one was Ethan Mars yelling Shaun from Heavy Rain. Jason and Shaun. I'm like, God.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Shaun.
Jason.
There's Ian Holmes' character from Alien, the cyborg Ash.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh yeah.
Or it might me feel bad for forgetting that. reputation.
that's still not as cool as Ash Williams, but at least you can talk with a decapitated head, and you've got milk for blood. So,
see, but that's the thing. You guys all have this. I'm going to say this with a hint of, if not overtly stated, jealousy, because I get shoehorned into this character, albeit he's decently cool. His old iterations are cool. His new ones, not so much. You guys have a plethora to pick from.
I have Ash or Ash from Pokemon. That's my choices.
Or Ash.
the one that really gets me is Shaun the Sheep.
Oh, Shaun the Sheep. Yeah, okay. That's.
I hate that. I hate Wallace and Gromit for introducing Shaun the Sheep. I absolutely love the series, but my.
Oh, there's an Ash in Alien. Just clicked in my brain.
That's
Another one.
Yes, yeah. I apologize, my wheezy laugh. I think yes, that's.
I'm not with it today, man.
No, you're all right. That's.
Let's move on.
It must also be serendipitous if you also had your eye removed by an eldritch cult.
Wow.
That would be really coincidental. On top of having the same name as Garrett.
Oh, let's move on from that embarrassment.
Well, to be fair, I mean it wasn't an eldritch cult, but no, I think it's. If that's the character that I have to share a name with, I'm actually not too terribly upset about it. He's at least, like I said, his old versions are really cool.
Yeah, at least there's no one out there called Garrett the Sheep.
That's true. Well,
Garrett the Sheep
that we know of, because it was
should be
that there's just this one. No, it's Garrett, but that's the problem. Is there are words that rhyme with it that are much less threatening. Well, I don't know. The sheep are pretty non-threatening. I was gonna say a ferret, but ferrets can be pretty ferocious.
Yeah.
But I get called that. I don't know why. I have a friend, is Andreas. He's been on the channel in our Shadowgate playthrough on my channel, and you'll hear that sometimes. I don't know why. But speaking of we said Ash from Pokemon, and we and you gave a heads up, so I guess I'll introduce this one. I hate this. Let's talk exclusively about this.
I didn't even think of that.
But so Nintendo announced Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet. It is supposed to be an open world Pokemon game that comes later this year, probably end of quarter 3, beginning of quarter 4. And it's of course the same Pokemon developers that you would have. It's Nintendo and Game Freak and all that. I don't feel like I'm good to speak on this. I don't know anything about Pokemon, save for what my wife does. I say this, and I've said it before. It's kind of after my time. 95, I think, is when they started, and I just wasn't really. That's not what I was doing. I had people that were doing it that are around my age that were doing the cards and stuff. I didn't really do. I wasn't interested in the collecting and I was just kind of like, no. So what do you guys? I mean, is this going to be? I guess the question I'm going to ask is this going to be the game that's going to get me into it, to understanding it, or am I just too far behind?
I've got to be honest, man. I don't know why I've put this in there. When I was trying to find the news items, I was just looking at what was happening. So I've got zero interest in Pokemon. I've never understood it. I don't know why I've put it in here. I really do hope Sean at least likes the franchise in some way, so we can get another opinion on it. But
you'll be pleased to know that you're 3 for 3. I do not care about this franchise at all. Didn't they just release one, Arceus or something like that?
Yeah.
And also, isn't every Pokemon game open world? Like you can freely go between towns and from what I remember. So what would be the different what would be the context of this one being open world, like this one being mentioned as open world, if you could freely go anywhere in the others?
I need to know what is this. It's like they announced 2 games. What's Scarlet and what's Violet? What's that mean? What is the 2?
It's another way of saying it's a posher way of saying red and blue, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. So
Like, what's the benefit behind? Do you have to buy both games?
Yes.
Yeah, the conceit behind. Okay, maybe I know a little bit about Pokemon. Okay, maybe a little bit more than I've let on before. The conceit behind Pokemon is there is always two versions, and there are different Pokemons that appear in each version that you cannot get in the other, because it's supposed to be this whole social thing where you can swap Pokemon between. So if you've got red and your friend's got blue, you can exchange Pokemon between each other and give each other Pokemon that the other version doesn't have. Which means that if you're an introvert or a recluse like myself, who it's just completely no point to doing it, because you'll never get that sense of completion or closure, because you don't have another friend that has that game or the corresponding game to sort of help you advance with it. So that's probably why I've never got into it.
I feel like that's a primarily Nintendo thing. Like, I'm trying to think. Can you imagine another company? And yeah, can you imagine another company bringing out a game, but there's another like, let's say, can you imagine Street Fighter 6 coming out and Ken's in one version and Akuma's in the other version, and you have to buy both versions? Isn't it essentially that's what they do with this?
I'd just buy both versions. You can't ask me to choose.
That's what I mean. Like, it's their way of making more money, isn't it? Like, the sleazy way. Am I wrong on this?
I'm not gonna lie. I'd buy the second one.
What is it?
Ken, I don't get me wrong. Ken's great, but God, I love Akuma.
Ken.
But the thing is with Akuma is he can do a light tatsu into Shoryuken, which Ken can't, because anyway, I'll
I mean, to be fair, I'd also buy both versions. I don't know why I'm even bringing that up as an example.
I was gonna say, just be quiet. You don't know who's listening. If you're a Capcom executive out there and you're listening to this podcast, ignore him.
Idea.
He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Meanwhile, in the hall of Capcom Doom,
his last invention was a guinea pig helicopter. So just
I could sell Street Fighter 6 12 different ways with 12 unique characters.
I mean, it's obviously a bit different, but they did that with Street Fighter 2, didn't they? Yeah. There's like 9 different versions of the game.
Oh yeah. You had Turbo, and then you had, what was it, the new generation, and then you had it was ridiculous.
I love that this is a Pokemon news topic and it's moved to Street Fighter, by the way. That's great.
Just to answer Sean's question on this, I guess it was the kind of question he was posing. I feel like it's moving open world in the same way that Zelda did, that top-down open world to that Breath of the Wild-esque open world. And
so one Pokemon every 5 miles then.
Right, yeah. So it's exactly, and 5 different ways to travel slowly through that same trudging 1,000 path,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I do know, as far as I don't know anything about Pokemon in terms of the gameplay and the Pokemon. I do know about it in terms of marketing and such. I did work in the gaming industry at the beginning of in the early 2010s for a good several years. So in terms of how that operates, I got to have meetings with Nintendo, and they explain. They don't explain, hey, we're trying to sell more copies. They explain, yes, we want you to. I think the big thing. I was working it during the one I got the most. I guess the deepest explanation on was X and Y. I think. So it's been a while, and it was that the legendary Pokemon, which I'm assuming is your holy grail in the game, perhaps that's end game, I don't know, is different from one to the other, and it's impossible for you, without the other cartridge or without trading with another friend, it's impossible for you to acquire that legendary Pokemon. Basically, it's impossible for you to acquire it without those two things. So if you just bought one iteration of the game, then you get one legendary Pokemon, and if you wanted the other one, you can buy it, or you can find it, trade it, or you can accept the fate that you have.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's always been Pokemon's kind of sort of marketing, is again forced socializing, I suppose. If you want everything, you're going to have to go out there and make a friend. So
I'm not doing that.
For shut-ins like me, it was like, okay, but I've also got Tomb Raider over here, so bye.
Right, man, I don't like humans either, so this wouldn't interest me at all, to be fair.
Exactly. If you want if you want a single player game with a turn-based combat system, the Final Fantasy VII came out around that time.
Well, and at the same time, like, Nintendo's the greatest at being the worst, and the worst at being the greatest in some cases too. They're I mean, I like Nintendo a lot, so I will back them up in a lot of cases. But they're like, forced socializing here in Pokemon, and yet I can buy Wii Sports for my Switch, my Wii U, my Wii, and play all sports that I would normally have to get involved with a group to play, all by myself, all from my living room. I'm happy. You know,
exactly.
You want to go out and play golf with you guys? Nope, I'll play it from living room. I'm fine. Yeah, but you won't get the experience of actual sunlight on you. Yeah, consider that a bonus.
Yeah. Well, the GameCube's stance was, do you not like our games and you'd rather use them as coasters for your coffee? Now the discs are too small to do that with.
There are some really good. I do think that at some point this should be a topic. I just haven't thought enough on it, but I find it. I guess it was, maybe it's just me, but I found a lot of people that are like that. I really underappreciated that system. And
GameCube,
fantastic system.
Yeah, I did. I didn't get into the GameCube until probably the early 2010s, and so by that time it was, entering its decade of life. And luckily I got it before everything went sky high. But like I had been playing, rather I should say, like Cube of War and what was the other? I was going to say Jet Force Gemini, but it's Jet Force Hypergrind. There we go. Or what is it? Now I have to go back and look at it. It's like a weird anthropomorphic skating style game. It's really cool. It's very, very in the vein of Jet Set Radio. But like those games, those are so much fun. Like and you can't get them on any other system. So I feel bad about it.
Version of Soul Calibur 2 did you guys have back in the day, or did you play? The GameCube.
I've got the GameCube and the PS2 version. So unfortunately, I never got to play a Spawn.
That version of Spawn.
Xbox was the only version I had up until I started working in games, and now I have all of them. But yeah, so I exclusively played as Spawn. No Zelda, no Link, no Heihachi.
Back in the day, because I was such a fighting game fan, I always liked the PS2 version the most because of having Heihachi in there. But I do think the GameCube version's pretty good as well. I've never actually played the Xbox one either.
Oh, it's Soul Calibur. It's just another skin for, basically it's a moveset and skin similar to Nightmare, but not the same. I mean, it's not the same. Like, they did make their changes to give him some form of unique, but at the same time, I feel like even the same thing with Soul Calibur 4 with the Darth Vader and Yoda ones. Like, those characters felt like they took their base move set from other characters.
Right, yeah.
It always feels to me like the main villain-esque character takes this Darth Vader in this game. I know Spawn's not technically a villain; he's an anti-hero, but like Vader always felt very nightmarish too, even though he was two hands on the saber. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not as good at fighting games. Maybe this is your guys' thing. I enjoy Soul Calibur. I enjoy Tekken, insofar as that I can push buttons and win some rounds if the characters aren't on too high a difficulty.
What were you going to say, Sean? I feel like I interrupted you a while ago.
No, I can't remember. I'm more kind of confused by the taking 5 minutes to talk about Soul Calibur, then finishing it off with. But you guys talk about fighting games because I'm not really that knowledgeable.
Well, it's
like I've got every version. Yeah.
It's the like and Ash can say this. I don't know if you've had the chance to see, or even if you would want to, that I was playing Power Rangers on the channel, and granted it's not the most refined fighting game, but at the end the last two missions are essentially a fighting the style of a fighting game, and it took me an hour and a half to get past that final boss.
I remember watching you play that.
And I'm sure it was like pulling teeth for you, because I mean, like, the technical knowledge that goes, like, I feel like a lot of people play fighting games, but I feel like you really have to have that technical knowledge that you guys most likely have. I know Ash has it far beyond what I have, to enjoy it to that extra level.
I think that there's definitely a baseline kind of fundamental understanding for all fighting games, but at the same time, just because I'm good at Street Fighter doesn't make me any good at Samurai Showdown. And definitely, like I could go into like I still have Yoshimitsu's 10-hit combo memorized from Tekken, but then trying to even pull off a 5-hit combo in Killer Instinct or something like that would be lost on me. So it's there's a baseline understanding, like to know a quarter circle or to know how to sort of perform a spinning part, like your SPD input. I think that could be essential. But it's when you kind of get into the deeper understand the more individual aspects of each franchise or something, that's when it becomes more interesting. To me at least. Like
that's true.
I did notice that when Ash was streaming King of Fighters 15, when he was playing as Ralph's got this heavy kick, which reminded me heavily of Ken's forward medium kick, whereas it covers a lot of ground in one input and is really good for footsies.
Okay.
And then I don't know why, but a few days later on Twitter, I noticed everyone is pointing out how far Ralph's heavy kick reaches, and like there's some great little sort of independent animations where it's like you've got someone right on the other end of the screen, and he, instead of like reaching his foot, all like stretching his foot Dalsim style all the way across the screen, he'll just turn away, point the other end of the screen, and it'll go from like the left side of the screen out that and come out the right side of the screen. But again, there's like that understanding of, oh, that reminds me of Ken's forward medium, but at the same time, there's a different level of intricacy to King of Fighter and to SNK inputs, because they do these weird things where it's like forward, then half circle back, then forward again, and it just there's absolute madness to it. But yeah, I can't remember what the original question was, but yeah, there's a baseline understanding needed there. If you're going to be good at them, in order to get into them, you don't need that understanding. But if you kind of, it's one that comes naturally the more you kind of lean into it.
Right. And so the question was about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm going to get both.
No, I'm teasing.
Imagine someone who does watch this like in a few months or whatever, and they're huge Pokemon fans, and they hear the question, they're like, "Oh, I'm looking forward to this one," and then this happens.
I was hoping one of you two would be interested in, and it wasn't just a case of, so a new Pokemon game's been announced. Next topic.
I really didn't think when I added it, because I don't even care. But I couldn't find much new stuff this week.
But no,
nothing that interested me.
I like the direction that topic went, actually, quite a bit. I was that was the question though. Does a greater technical knowledge afford you a greater level of enjoyment? So you answered that quite well. It was I mean, for me, that's the thing too. I like Street Fighter, but like I do find myself gravitating towards, and that's not just, it's not me gravitating towards just in terms of preference, but also in terms of like intuition maybe when it comes to playing. So like I found myself being a better Tekken player than a Street Fighter player naturally without having to learn a lot more. That's it. It makes you a better player because the more baseline understanding you have of it, the less you have to think about it. So the more you can allow yourself to be immersed, because you're not constantly thinking, which button's heavy, which button's light, which button's your left arm, which button's your right arm. You can just run on autopilot and just enjoy yourself. You're not having to think about it. Like I tried to teach my wife how to play Street Fighter. And I tried to teach her how to do a Hadouken, and it was so much more difficult than I thought it would be. So it was like, okay, put your finger on the down on the D-pad, now roll it to forward. And she didn't understand that. Like, okay, so how do I best express
going from down to forward, like just roll it your finger. I couldn't think of how to teach someone else to do it because my understanding is that ingrained that I can just straight away do it automatically.
Yep.
And then when she learned to do that, it's like, okay, now you need to, as you hit forward at the end of that quarter circle, then you need to press a punch button. And what I noticed after a couple of minutes of watching her try and fail was she was having to look down at the D-pad every time to try and figure out what she was doing, to try and understand. It's like, so when I say a baseline understanding, you don't necessarily need to know how to throw a fireball, but you need to know how to make a quarter circle motion. That is imperative. But again, she can also for some games you don't need that understanding. I from time to time we will have a few Soul Calibur matches. I rarely win. She just button bashes for a good half hour, character after character, and I barely get a look in. So, maybe that's an accessibility issue.
So, can I throw this is to both of you, who I believe do have a much greater technical understanding of fighting games, at least as it stands here. Can I submit to you something that I think may be a bit taboo?
Go on.
Okay. So Soul Calibur is one of my favorites to go to.
Yes.
I love Soul Calibur quite a lot, and I loved that they added Geralt in this latest one, and just like it's all good. I map my light and my heavies to the triggers and the bumpers respectively, and I free the buttons up for my supers and my defense. So A is my defense, or X, depending on what system you're playing.
Yeah, and that's standard. Yeah, that's so.
Okay.
So what do you do with X, Y, and B then?
So those are just in order to. I mean, I'm probably not doing it right, but Y is my I can't remember what the name of it is. It's the super equivalent, right? It's when
you critical art.
Yes, thank you. I couldn't think of that. It's all macroed to Y or to triangle. I have it on both systems, so either or. But yeah, and when you go into the controls, you can see that that's the option. You can just, instead of hitting all four of those buttons, you can just hit one button. It's in the game, so it's obviously allowable, but then the arenas that I'm playing, which are not professional. But yeah, B is still my kick, obviously, but like, I find that with the triggers, I have a lot faster response, and I can, and I play, this is also probably a little taboo, I play Raphael a lot, and I feel like he can be a little bit more technical, and I find that with the triggers, I have a much more precise parry.
Okay, see, I could never play as Raphael because of that, and because I'm just no good with it. With him, the ones I have the toughest time with is him and Ivy. Ivy's a very technical kind of. Yeah. Whereas you can't just button bash with Ivy, because a lot of what she does is with stances and what have you. So I couldn't get to grips with Raphael at all. But if it works for you, and that makes it easy for you, that's kind of the beauty of it. It's kind of the beauty of finding your own kind of comfort zone with it. I mean, I don't know whether this is a good time to kind of slide into the one of the other topics we had lined up regarding accessibility, but
yeah, I think that would be appropriate.
But no, just to finish that off, I've never heard of anyone mapping their standard, vertical, horizontal to the triggers, because I have my general A, B, K, G, which if you know Soul Calibur, you know, but it's basically A is your vertical. No, sorry, A is your horizontal attack, B is your vertical attack, K is your kick, G is your guard, and I have that mapped to the face buttons. And I have all my button combinations, so my AB, my ABKs, and everything in my throws mapped to the triggers. Okay. Because I don't use them as much. So, and because I find because of how much more you have to push down on a trigger, it's not just a quick sort of minute little button tap. Whereas there's some actual give, especially when you're talking about the DualSense controller. There's more give than there is with the face buttons, so it's just quicker for me. But it's certainly interesting that your A and B to your triggers. That's quite an interesting one to me.
I don't think I could play Ivy with it because I feel like she's more of a zone character. You have to know, like with the chainsword, how far this is going to go when you stick it in the ground and all that.
Oh yeah.
And Raphael, you kind of know he's got to be fairly close quarters. He can play medium, but he's not going to be your Astaroth long range heavy hit kind of guy. If it's all right, then I think it might be the best segue to jump into that last topic. Is that all right with you, Ash? And then we can run back.
That's fine. Yeah.
So we were talking about accessibility in games, and I was kind of mentioning, of course, my way of making a game genre that I am not an expert in more accessible to me. But the question of the topic is: should all games be made accessible to everyone, regardless of their skill? And this one was as it pertained to the difficulty of the game. So I think that as the topic is phrased, it's maybe more towards Souls-style games for casual players and less about a random weird guy who maps his buttons different. But yeah, at the same time, with Dark Souls, Demon Souls, Elden Ring, we've seen this kind of surge of Sekiro as well. Just these surges of innately difficult games, and there's really no real baby mode in there, so to speak. Should games be inherently difficult and notorious for that difficulty, or should there always be this kind of cop out BJ Blazkowicz with his pacifier and bonnet on mode?
Do you want to take this, Ash?
Do you want to take it first?
Sure. No, I was going to say, because I've got a lot to say. So once the train gets started with me, it's going to be a while before it starts. So I'd be interested to hear someone else's thoughts, because I have very, very clearly defined opinions about this. So
I really want to hear what you have to say, man, first, to be honest.
Right. First off, let's just separate out the difference between difficulty and accessibility. That's the first thing. Mm-hmm. Should games be accessible to all? Absolutely. If you've got a player who's, and this might be a bit of left field and not what kind of the question was originally asking, but if you've got a player who's colorblind or is one-handed or anything like that, or may have trouble with their senses or their sort of motor functions in any way, yes, absolutely. There's no reason games shouldn't be made more accessible to them. That's one thing I'll absolutely stand by. In terms of difficulty, should games cater to the players' wants in terms of difficulty? No, absolutely not. It's because that is, when you're talking difficulty, you're talking about the way the game is designed on a foundational level. And I know very well, sort of speaking specifically about Souls, Hidetaka Miyazaki, CEO of FromSoft and the writer and designer of the original Souls games, except for I don't think he had any or much involvement with Dark Souls 2. I think that was the B team. Yeah. They kind of looked after that one. His whole approach to it was the idea of overcoming hardship. Mm-hmm. So I think in terms of giving someone an easy mode where they don't struggle, well, you're kind of taking away the designer's intent with that one. Mm-hmm. I think there should be a level of it. I think it should be made more accessible, so you can approach the game, and there shouldn't be anything stopping you from playing it as well as anyone else. Yeah. I think in terms of that, you should have all the same opportunities to play a game, regardless of whether you are fully sort of capable of playing without any accessibility options catering to you, or if you need them. If you like say colorblind options for colorblind people. Getting my words mixed up there. So subtitles for hard of hearing. That's what I count as accessibility. Mm-hmm. Something that's going to help you play the game as easily as anyone else. But in terms of the actual difficulty, no, because that's not an accessibility issue. Because if you take sort of gaming as a whole, there was one point in time, up to a certain point in time, where Souls games didn't exist. So if Souls games were inaccessible, then when the first one, Demon Souls, came out on PS3, no one would be able to play it because no one had played a game like that before. And yet, people were able to get into it, which means that there's not an issue of sort of accessibility in terms of catering to the player. Catering to what the player wants from that game. I think that's it. As long as the player can play the game, then yeah, it should be made absolutely accessible to enable them to be able to play the game. But in terms of catering to give the player what they want from the game itself, no, absolutely not. Because that would be like turning around to Da Vinci and saying, "Oh, could you use a different color on the Mona Lisa's eyes?" It's like I don't like that. So I feel it would be, she would have her whole face would sort of, the aura of her face would glow more if her eyes were a different color. It's like, no.
that's a very fair.
Can you understand what I mean in terms of like, if you have a specific vision for your game, if you're creating a game and you have a specific vision for it and from what you want the message of that game to be, which Hidetaka Miyazaki has stated, overcoming hardship, then that's going to be lost by adding easy mode. At the same time, if Hidetaka Miyazaki decided, you know what, yeah, give him an easy mode, that's absolutely his decision. I would not begrudge him that, and it does not. I told you I'd get started on this one.
It's all right. We're all aboard.
The problem is for people that don't feel they need an easy mode, they should not complain about a game. If From Software games or Soulsborne games had easy modes retroactively implemented. The problem you've got is, and I think when it comes to the topic of difficulty and exclusion in terms of difficulty, is for some reason this single-player action RPG game has community and social elements to it. And the problem with that is one, unless you're choosing to invite other players to play with you to help with a boss, the majority of your online interactions from that game are going to be griefed. Are you going to be getting griefed by players that are better than you or who are cheating? And then you take the community aspect outside of the game itself, and you've got a load of people who are just being really, really toxic and going, get good. And it's like, how does that help the community?
Yeah.
So there's that aspect of it where I think it's, if that side of the community was a little less toxic about it, then maybe there wouldn't be such a hardship. But because people are just turning around and rubbing their skill into other people's faces and, oh, you just got to get good, haven't you? It's like, how does that help anything? Because now that person who's struggling is either going to be put off that game because there's a community aspect of it that has also excluded them as much as the game's difficulty already has, or more than. And at the same time, I kind of lost my train of thought there. I think I got a little bit too fired up. But do you know what I mean? There's like, it doesn't help when it comes to inclusion when you have members of that community or people who count themselves as members of that community who are actively griefing newcomers.
Yeah.
It's like when you say, oh, well, one of the things that would make the game easier is a pause button. My God. You to even say that to like a diehard Souls experience stan, you're basically insulting their mother or something like that. The game doesn't need a pause button. If you add a pause button, it ruins the experience. I think the reason a pause button never existed in the first place was because there's an online aspect to it. So if someone jumps into your game, you can't pause the game because it doesn't pause it for them. So on a personal level, I'd question why this single-player action RPG needs an online aspect in the first place. Because I'll tell you for free, I have never played a Souls game and wanted to be. If I ever have the option, I play offline.
Same.
I want nothing. I want nothing to do with the online sort of aspect of playing a Souls game. But they don't. And I don't know, Ash. Do any of these games offer that option? I know Sekiro doesn't count because that is fully single player and you can pause.
Yeah,
I don't think so. I don't think any of them do. I agree with pretty much everything you said there. I think you're right about. I question how anyone's got an issue with accessibility and why people think that's a problem. I find that odd. Like, why even is there an issue to some? Like, what's wrong with making just the overall game? Like, I want to find something real quick. I've got him up. It's a guy called Steve Saylor. He's a YouTuber, I think, and he's blind.
Yes. That's where I saw the exact same thing, and that's kind of what spurred me on with the accessibility thing.
Want to just read the tweet he put out? I've sadly requested a refund of Elden Ring. The lack of accessibility for me to enjoy this game and the toxic Souls fanboys I've had to deal with this week is had enough. No game is worth that. So he kind of plays into both things you were talking about there, how he's clearly having these accessibility problems, the guy's blind, and he's got like some dickheads just talking shit, like these fanboys. That's just ridiculous.
Absolutely.
The accessibility thing is just, I have no idea why this comes across as an issue, and I think some of it plays into that these people get confused, that they think it means the same thing as difficulty.
Yeah,
I think that's something too. They get them mixed up, and then like, no, it doesn't need to be easier, and people are like, that's not what accessibility means. It doesn't mean it's easier. It's more people to get a chance to experience the game. When it comes to actual difficulty, I agree. I don't think if a game is designed a certain way and changing the difficulty of it will affect the design, then there shouldn't be any easy mode. But I think it just depends on each game. Like the Souls games are a perfect example of, they're designed in a specific way where I think it's difficult to implement any kind of difficulty modes. I don't think that can work. But then you've got a game like Sifu. This conversation come up as well about being difficult, and they're adding an easy mode. So I think it just depends on the design. You've got something like Returnal where you couldn't pause a cycle. So when you turn the game off, you had to restart the cycle or something like that. And they added that to that game. So I think that just, there's different ways of adding these difficulty options. It doesn't necessarily have to instantly mean, right, we've got an easy mode now.
Yeah.
I think it can be these different versions. But I've heard that Miyazaki said recently that they'll always make difficult games.
Yeah.
Like, which is like, and people were like complaining. I'm like, that's their style of game.
Yeah.
Like, I get if you like, how do I put it? Like, if you want to like the game more, then I don't know what to tell you. Like, that's the difficulty of it. Like, you're gonna get the shit kicked out of you in Souls games. That's the style of game it is.
Yeah.
But when it comes, sorry, Sean.
No, carry on. Let me finish your thoughts. I just want to quickly get this out there because it's
just the accessibility thing bothers me, of why people have an issue with it. But like I said, I think they do mistake it for people wanting easy modes, and they just put both of them together, and they need to realise that when we're talking about accessibility, that doesn't mean easy mode. It means like a guy who's got one hand or a blind guy. Like, it's to help those guys. Like, it's not trying to make your game like fucking easier for you. Like, it's still going to be there for you to play. It's just a weird topic to like you can't discuss anything on social media and shit anyway. It's just everyone just hates everybody. It's ridiculous.
So the two quick thoughts I just want to quickly get it. Sorry, Retro. I will shut up about this in a minute.
No worries. No worries.
I'm fully aware there are three people here. It's just this.
You're good, man.
Fires me up.
Fine.
Okay, one. for the accessibility thing in terms of a pause button, just to nip that one in the bud. And I will say, FromSoft should give you the option to play online or offline.
Mm-hmm.
That should be an option there. And if you choose to play online, then obviously you can't pause because you're connecting online. If you do choose to play offline, there is no reason you shouldn't be able to pause.
Yeah.
But you have to go in with that understanding of you can play online, but you're not going to be able to pause it because there are going to be other players connecting to you, and that could lead to cheating and unfair things like that. It could cause an imbalance in gameplay for you and anyone that you're connecting with. But if you're playing offline, it doesn't affect anyone if you pause the game. So if suddenly something comes up, but at least give the players the option. I wanted FromSoft to give players that option because of the community, because I don't want to interact, because I've never had a positive online experience with a Souls game. I love the Souls games, but I absolutely hate the online aspect of them.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
I mean,
and the other thing I was going to say was, if these people really have a problem with difficulty in games, why aren't they sort of picketing outside arcades? Because I'll tell you what, I've played plenty of Street Fighter games I couldn't complete. I've played plenty, like all those arcade games that are literally not just difficult by design, but taking your money because of their difficulty. So that seems more predatory to me. And if anything should be fought against in terms of difficulty or fairness in difficulty, it should be one of those, not a game that is so intricately designed as to give a certain experience that perfectly gives that experience as well. Might I just put in there it's not hurting anyone if you don't like that game.
Yeah. Well, there was I think they said it. There was the Sagat imbalance with Street Fighter arcade cabs intentioned to take money. If I'm not mistaken on that. Is that something that you guys are aware of as well?
I wasn't aware of that. Was that for the first Street Fighter when Sagat was still the final boss? Or?
Yes, yeah. And I believe they had said that there was something in there that made him, basically, they were little tweaks, if I'm not mistaken, and I have to go back and brush up on it, but they were little tweaks like that his hurt box was smaller than his sprite, so you could clip through. Hypothetically, you could be well within his sprite and still not miss him. He had a much shorter stun time. He had a slightly faster reaction time, and his hitbox was actually a little bit bigger than his sprite. So what his ability to hit you was bigger than was indicated on screen. His ability to be hit was smaller than was indicated on screen. His stun time was not the same as yours, and his reaction time, or his ability to counter, was not the same. That window for that was different. And so basically you could hypothetically you could be on frame 2 of an attack, and normally you have to hit that counter on frame 1, and he could get until frame 3 and still counter, that kind of thing. So I think it's a long-standing practice of that, and it's the same practice too that happened back in the rental days. I made mention of this in one of my former episodes, but for a lot of companies were instructed to make their first levels very fun and easy and inviting, and their second levels unbeatably hard. And the reason that was, a case in point, and this would be the Lion King for Super Nintendo, but many others were directed the same. First level's not very difficult at all. You jump around some platforms, you take some health, you do a quick little boss fight that's not too difficult. And then the second level is just ridiculous. The ostrich runs and the monkey puzzles and all that good stuff. And the reason that was is because they wanted you not to be able to beat it in the rental frame. So the first level was enough to draw you in, but the second level was hard enough to prevent you from being able to beat it within the rental time frame. So you had to buy the cartridge, and the rental business model wouldn't come in as a stopping point for purchases for businesses selling their games. So as far as it goes with difficulty, I agree with you in terms of artistic. I mean, obviously rentals aren't really as much a thing as they were back then, certainly. I mean, I agree with you in that video games are art, and that you should never tell an artist how they can express themselves. You can say you don't appreciate the art, but then you just don't have to buy the art. You don't have to look at the art. You can go somewhere else. But I also like it. I mean, I do like it when the artist takes things into account. Me personally, and I sing its praises probably more often than it deserves, one of the games that I thought did a really good job of this, if we had subtracted difficulty from the equation, or a difficulty selector from the equation, was Witcher 3. So usually when I play a game, if it does have a difficulty selection, I like to play it on hard, or if there's a multiple hard, I'll either play it on the next to highest or highest difficulty. Just because that's how I like to play games. I like the challenge. And Witcher, I did decide to play on Blood and Broken Bones as opposed to Death March, just because of my lack of familiarity with the changes from the second one to this one. And I remember I was specifically playing a part with in Blood and Wine, one of the expansions, which is quite good. And I was in this fight with one of the vampire. I don't remember exactly what the specific type of vampire was called. I can't think of it right now, but I think it was one of the Striga. I could be wrong, but any which way, I'm fighting with it, and I'm having a heck of a time. And I didn't have to go out and grind. I didn't have to do anything. I had a couple of options though at my disposal. I could go and grind, try to level up skills. B, I could try and go and get gold and buy better equipment with better stats. C, I could find a combination that was clever enough through things that I had, new oils to coat my blade with, things, because their bestiary is pretty robust. It tells you what they're weak against and what they're strong against, and I could see if I had the resources necessary to make some of those, and then ration resource out as needed to get that in with my normal hits. I could find an oil for the blade. I think in their case they were weak to grape shot, which was a type of grenade. There were 500 different ways I could have solved the puzzle, from grinding to doing exactly what I was doing and just winning in the soul style, doing chip damage and then backing away, to working with resources that I had, consulting the beastie. Like I really like it. I don't think that any artist should have to change their art to make it happen, but I really liked the fact that there was such a plethora of option available for that. And so I think if there was that kind of happy medium of affording that to a person, and then, expressing yourself as far as the game developer goes in a way that that doesn't stifle you, I guess that'd be kind of in the ideal for me personally.
To me it feels like listening to Bohemian Rhapsody as an oboe enthusiast, and then writing to the record company and going, could you remake it so there's more oboe, because I don't feel catered to as an oboe enthusiast.
yeah
you don't, like, no one's stopping you from listening to it. Okay?
Yeah,
but no one's keeping you listening to it if you're not having a good time.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely consider a player's needs if they need to be able, if they might not be fully physically able to play a game, and cater to that, but don't change the difficulty, because it's all about the fairness of the experience. You don't want to say make the experience easy for one than another. So, or if you don't want the experience to be easy at all, then yeah, by all means, stick to your guns on that one. It's really the end of it.
And I think, I agree with you. I think, and maybe I'm not saying it. Maybe I'm saying it in a way that doesn't convey my intention. I agree with you wholeheartedly. But I feel like it is, make it as accessible as you can without sacrificing any of your artistic vision.
Yeah, that's hit the nail right on the head there.
Okay.
I think a question I'd like to pose, if either of you two would have a hypothetical answer to it, is why does this only come about when it's Souls games? Difficult games have been around for years. Why has the conversations? Do you think the conversation has only started happening now? like you say, you've got examples like The Lion King and rental games like Hagane.
Oh yeah,
it was also another, quite difficult platformer for the SNES. That it was, it wasn't. It turned out not to be a Blockbuster exclusive, but it's most known for being a Blockbuster rental. And like I say, why was no one writing to companies then, or why was no one crying out to be catered to then? What's the difference now with Souls games? Is it just because they look really good and it's like, I'd really like to be able to play this because it looks fantastic, but it's just too hard? So
actually, I think that plays into it, Sean. Like, I think I actually know people like this that love the world and the characters and they're really intrigued by it, and then they hear that it's got that kind of style and it puts them off. I do think there's something about that that they just don't want to invest in, constantly getting the shit kicked out of you and then having to run all the way back. I think Elden Ring actually solves a few of these Souls issues, by the way, in the games, in the older games, about going down this same like corridor path to like back to this boss to then get beat up again and then go back again. I think Elden Ring solves a bit of that. But I do think some of it is that the game's so interested in the design and all this stuff, and people want to play it, they just don't want to play that, like they don't want it to be that hard, but that's the way the game is.
I think a lot of it's also the evolution of our entitlements as gamers, because I feel like that, like, yet again, I've said this before, my first games were Pong and Pitfall, and I was pretty happy. I didn't go to Pitfall and go, you're no Pong, or vice versa. But I was pretty happy. Graphics aren't. I still love Pitfall to this day. I still play it on the 2600. It's not the graphics aren't great. The alligators barely look like alligators, and the human barely looks like a human. Pitfall Harry doesn't look like a person, but you get it.
That scorpion.
I was going to say the alligators can't alligate, and I hate that thing. That's the scorpion is absolutely the bane of my. Well, I don't know. I fall through a lot of alligator snouts too. But like, yeah, I mean, the hit detection on the vine, the swinging vine, wasn't great. The graphics aren't great. Your score can be detracted by a random log that is probably as truly RNG as RNG has been ever. And yet I enjoyed it for what it was. And then when games became, more and they keep evolving, you get Super Mario and such. My tastes, obviously, for appreciation of graphics, I think evolved a little bit as well. But I was still used to this brutal difficulty, and that was the other thing with like Pong and such. You were going for high score. There wasn't any end. There wasn't a payoff. You were playing the game to play the game, and you played the game until you felt like not playing the game anymore, or until you reached a high score that you felt like was, unbeatable. And I think that I feel like that our instincts go more towards the quality of a game as an art piece, and we all consider ourselves an art critic, as opposed to looking at it as something that we can enjoy that also may be a form of art. And so, like I said, I was happy to do with those as little as as they had so much less than what we have nowadays, and I was happy with that. And I take that same kind of enthusiasm as the graphics get better and the music becomes more intense and they're more complicated. I take that same kind of basic, it's fun. I'm just playing it because I'm playing it. And I don't feel like a lot of people do that anymore. I feel like a lot of people are, this game doesn't, it's always stacked up to the last game they played. It's not kept through static. So it's, okay, this game doesn't look as nice as the game that I played before, and this game doesn't feel as nice, and this game doesn't. And then when they find something that they can't do in it, because back then, yet again, it's for high score. You go into a Hagane, I could pass level 3, and this guy couldn't. Now it's, I'm being a little, I don't want to be rude when I say this, but I'm a little bit about being coddled. It's not about what I can do, it's about you getting on my level so that I can do it. So like my whole point is, like, there wasn't as much payoff and there was as much difficulty as there was in these old games, and we just enjoyed the game for the game, whatever that meant, whatever that game brought to the table. and Hagane. Castlevania 3 is another notoriously difficult one, and more difficult even in its North American version than it was in its Japanese version in this case. Like, I just enjoy the game for what it is. I don't expect Konami to retroactively go back and make it so that I can pass it on one life. And same situation, if I find a game I can't pass, I'm not holding it to the standard of, well, the previous game was difficult, but it wasn't so difficult that I couldn't pass it, and it wasn't so easy that I felt like I was coddled, so you need to change it to be in that very specific area. I don't know, I just feel like that I'm talking in circles, but it's basically, I feel like we've become so entitled with the way that we view video games now that we're more vocal about it. Back then it was like, hey, it's fun to have a game, hard or not, I'll do what I can, it's fun to play. Now it's like, it's got to be niche, it's got to be exactly the way I want it, and I don't care if anyone else likes it.
Yeah, there's I definitely agree, there's an aspect of that there.
So I get frustrated and I can't find the words to express that, because it's like,
that's the thing, it's a topic that it's quite easy to get passionate about.
Yeah,
I think let's say there's part of what you just said, but could also be the part of going back to what I said of, is there are people out there that aren't on the development team that are going out there making people feel bad about not being good at it, and so those people get defensive and they want reparations.
Yeah.
Because someone made them not it's not just the case that they weren't good at the game, but someone made them feel bad for not being good at the game. So
yeah,
then they go on the defensive and they want something the compensation for that. Okay, so if the game were easier, then this person wouldn't be insulting me, telling me I was bad at the game.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is would it be a more relevant topic to say, should social media have an easy mode? Yeah, sure. I mean, like, if I could,
social media should have a mute button.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if I could turn, yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound repetitive, and I don't want to sound, I'm not your dad, basically, but like, who cares? Like, if you don't want to be in that environment, don't be in that environment. And yet again, who cares? Like, I'm using it as a reference. I'm not the greatest or most technically savvy when it comes to fighting games. I have certainly had. I'll pull an example I've pulled before. I have a friend who's an MMO aficionado. He knows his MMOs, he knows his cycles, he knows all that kind of good stuff. He played WoW for years. He played the Old Republic. I'm a Star Wars fan. I like the Old Republic, but I'm not technically, knowledgeable. I know how to attack and I can get by, but I don't know what cycles are, and I don't min-max or any of that. But I wanted to enjoy the story. It's Star Wars, and I love that, so why not? And awesome. It got to the point of where he was kind of elbow each time, nudge, nudge. I need you to do this cycle or do this cycle, or the character that you've built, even though it's according to your specs, is garbage. Okay, I don't care. I'm just, and it almost did disincentivize me. I was just like, I don't, But then eventually I get to the point where I was like, who cares? Like, if I can get through the levels of the game, it's not really levels, but it's an MMO, but if I can get through the story of the game, and I'm doing so well, I'm not playing PvP. I don't care about if some random person comes out. They're not going to attack me. I'm PvE here. Like, that's fine. And then I just kind of and then I enjoyed the game. Like, the game's good. The story's fun. Like, I feel like we let a lot of that get to us way too much. And instead of expecting the world to change, we just have to know when to, put our blinders and put our hands over our ears and say, I'm not going to listen. I'm just going to play Elden Ring. And, hey, I might die 5 times on the first area, and that's okay.
Have you seen the some of the fanboys complaining that if you use magic, you're cheating in the game?
Okay, right. If that was the case, then why did they put magic in the game?
That's exactly. It's a part of the game, so it can be used. It's ridiculous. It's like, just back on something I'm a bit more knowledgeable about, fighting games. Like, when I've had people online complain that I'm using like a character that's top tier. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's in the game. Like,
conversation.
Oh,
sort of, I'll pick a low tier character and beat you. Like, it's nothing to do with the characters. Like, I'll play who I want to play. Do you know what I mean? And there's always these excuses, or just people who hate seeing other people enjoy a game that's different from the way they're doing it. But they want to think that their way is the only way to play Elden Ring, and if they see someone using something they don't like, even though it's part of the game, they get really bothered by it, and those people are just the fucking insane.
But can you beat Low Tier God and Darkside Phil?
I beat them easily, sorry.
Yeah, that goes back to, I mean, that's the same thing. That what is it? The video game theory of dominant strategy, which is,
excuse me,
which is if somebody builds something into the game and it can be exploited to a guaranteed victory, it's not considered cheating. And you're going to do that. I get it. When you're in a fighting game and you're in a tournament, there's probably some anti-spamming rules, because that would be, but like, if you're just trying to get through the story and you're perfectly okay spamming a single move that continues to knock the character down and stun them, like, if that's how you want to play, if you're not in a tournament that forbids it expressly, play the game your way.
Yeah. Especially if you're playing at home, because you're not playing in a tournament. No one's watching you, so what does anyone else care? What do you care if anyone else does see?
You're not gonna persuade me or change me to play a game how I enjoy playing it. Like, it's not gonna happen. I'll play it how I want to play it. If it bothers you, I don't care. I don't give a shit. Like, I'll play it how I want to play it.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I appreciate your bluntness in this, and I apologize. You have me wheezing over here.
It's refreshing.
It's true, man. Like, people on Twitter, they're like, you shouldn't be doing this. Like, no, I'll do it, and then I'll just show you that I'm doing it as well to irritate you even more. Like, it's insane.
Yeah, me and Retro over here just debating. Yes, that's a very good point. And Ashley's just over there like, arseholes.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to stay somewhat cordial in it. I don't know if that's. Yeah, we don't think you should try that. We're kind of like
help it, man.
We're kind of like the supportive parents, and you're like the intervention. Yeah, we're like, hey, maybe you shouldn't try to do that, but we understand why people do. And then you're just sitting there going, if you do it again, I'll break your thumbs. I really like that.
Just tired of it. Like, who do they think they are to tell people how to play a game? Like, it doesn't work. It's not going to work. It's ridiculous.
Well, and you've got it just happens. It's also I don't think it's inherent in gaming necessarily, but like PC master race versus the other consoles, you're always going to find somebody that's going to tell you why what you're doing isn't as good as
the console war stuff's ridiculous, man. It like melts my brain whenever I see any of that. I get away from it instantly.
Yeah, but like I remember the Genesis does what Nintendo don't. Like, to me that was fun. Like that was fun. That was fun marketing, and it was. And I think, I mean, obviously knowing where Nintendo and Sega are now, I think it was more playful than anything. I don't think it was really legitimate jabs, but like that was fun. But now it's the fans doing it, and that's not fun. There's no benefit.
It's the fans it's like they're like involved in more than they think they are with these companies. It's like it's this personal attack on them. It's really weird.
Yeah.
How their brains function with that console war stuff, mate, makes no sense.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what I'm saying. Like, if Sega could get you to say, "Oh, Genesis does what Nintendo don't," okay, well, fine. Now you're buying a Genesis versus a Nintendo, a Super Nintendo, and my bottom line is impacted. But when it comes to me, like I have nothing to gain from converting you from PS5 to Series X or vice versa. Like, you're going to buy one of those two machines, perhaps both, and I will make not a dime, period. Like, like, it's nice to have somebody sympathize with you and be like, I like The Witcher 3, and then you say, oh, I like Witcher 3 too. Oh, cool, we can talk about that. But if you say, oh, I hate that game, you didn't hurt my feelings. Like, I still enjoy the game, and I'm not CD Projekt Red, so, like, good, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if either of you don't like The Witcher 3, this podcast is over. No, I'm just teasing.
No, it's not Breath of the Wild. It's okay.
No, I'm teasing.
My favourite Henry Cavill simulator.
Henry Cavill simulator. Oh man. So not.
They need to change the name from Witcher 3 to that. That needs, in the next gen upgrade, that needs to be the name of the game.
They need to change all of Geralt's dialogue to just
I think the guy that plays the voice, Doug Cockle, I think his name is, the voice of Geralt. I like his voice quite a bit. But I think it would be funny to see a parody of Henry Cavill's Witcher, where they try to do the Superman thing and CGI the beard off of it, or the stubble. That way we can have the best of both worlds. Honestly, though, to be fair, I mean, I haven't seen a lot of it, but he's done pretty. I mean, like he's done some justice to it. They definitely follow the books a lot more than they follow the games.
Oh, I absolutely love the Witcher series.
Oh yeah, but they're just it's pretty great. So I don't want to belabor topics. If not necessary,
shall we move swiftly on?
Talk
about something else and somehow turn it into a conversation about Street Fighter.
No, I think it's been great. I feel bad in mine because I got so passionate and upset, and I'm listening back to what I said, and I'm like, I don't know if people got when I gave the summary at the end, great, but I don't know if while I was saying it, people understood my rant. I was frustrated because I was legitimately thinking of that buddy of mine, which yet again, great friend, love him to pieces, but I was putting myself in that same seat, and I was getting frustrated. It was just like I played games before you guys even knew what they were. Like, just let me do my thing. I'm not going to bother you about yours. Just don't bother me of mine. But you were talking about the Sean. You were talking about the online experience from the game, and it kind of has me. It ties into a topic, but it also has me wondering about the online experience in general. And I kind of want to, if I may, Ash, I'd like to add a question to this topic. So you have it noted here that on release day, Platinum Games new live service, co-op action RPG known as Babylon's Fall, peaked at fewer than 650 concurrent players on Steam, that's pretty abysmal. And for anyone who's not familiar with Platinum Games, they're actually pretty solid developer. They've done the Bayonettas. They did Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, which, despite the fact that I don't like the fact that should be canon, I enjoy it. Vanquish, Nier Automata is great. I haven't played Astral Chain, but they're behind that as well. So the question that was posed here was, is the live service fascination the wrong direction to go? But I've asked this question, I think, before, and I just kind of would like your take on it as well, is whenever you purchase a game that has an online version and it's single player as well, does that at all impact the way that you look at the game? From a buyer's perspective or an enjoyment perspective, does that really impact the way that you look at the game and how you rate the game, etc.?
For me, when there's like a live service aspect, I do get worried because I just worry that the focus is gone on the actual game itself. Mm-hmm. And I feel like there's just too much nonsense tied around those type of games. That's too much took out of the experience and saved for the season 2 or this battle pass or this. I think there's too much took out of games, and I don't understand the fascination with it, because from what I'm trying to think, and I don't think a lot of them do that well. I feel like they always fail, these live service games, and they continue to keep attempting it. And a team like this, at least in my opinion, should not be doing live service games. They're incredible. I've been playing Vanquish, and that game's insane. I'm really enjoying it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And obviously it's not up to me. Maybe those games didn't do too well for them, in terms of sales. I don't know the sales of all those games. But maybe this is their chance of trying to get something to blow up. It's clearly not worked. But for me, when I hear that, I'm much more of a single player fan. I like some co-op stuff. I play a few co-op shooters with a friend of mine, but I'm not obsessed with them. I'd always choose a single player game over anything. I love fighting games and I play online, but I still enjoy the single player aspect of them more, the arcade modes.
Sure.
So that I always lean closer towards single player, and when I hear about this stuff being added, it does put me off. It's not enough for me to immediately not play the game, because I'll always give someone a try if I'm even remotely interested, just to form my own opinion on it. But it does sound more like hype or like excitement. Like, oh, they're going to add that shit, and then also what are they going to sell that's real money? What have they taken out the game that they can put later? Stuff like that. It does worry me a little bit when I hear of this stuff. But yeah, that's me. Where are you, Sean?
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like live service games, I'm not really like I'm like Ash. I go completely for the single player experience. So, because the problem with live service games, like look at Anthem, look at Godfall, they're very finite sort of life cycles, and they tend to be very short as well compared to like single player franchises. I mean, you're not going to see Anthem 2 anytime soon. You're not going to see Godfall make its way back. What was the one that came out alongside Overwatch? The Battleborn, was it?
Oh right, yeah.
There's all these live service games that just fall away, and so I can't really contribute to this because I just have like one overarching opinion of live service games. I'd be interested to know though why Platinum Games, who are very well known for really tight and entertaining single player experiences, are so surprised that their foray into the live service market didn't sort of garner as much attention as sort of their last offerings like Wonderful 101 and Astral Chain, you know. Games that are very much them. That, you know, it's not like, I'm not trying to say stay in your lane. I'm very much a case of, if you want to do it, try it, then by all means. But if it fails, you know, learn from it, grow from it. But it's just a surprise for me that someone like, say, like Platinum Games, who are known for crafting such tight single player experiences, why no? Because this was not on my radar until Ash sort of brought it up as a topic. I did not know this game existed at all. So, you know, have either of you tried it?
No, I have not.
No, I haven't tried it. I know there's a demo that I haven't tried. I've just looked up some footage. I do think too what you said about was it that, like, are they even surprised? I think some of this might be to do with Square Enix, because they also did the same thing with the Avengers game. Like, they put a team that are known for single player games and Avengers, it didn't do well, and then Square Enix are apparently surprised that it didn't do well. What do you expect when you get a team that's known for these single player games and you put them on something they've never really worked on? Like, it's probably not going to work out.
The other thing is, how well was it marketed?
It's another thing. Like, a lot of people didn't even know about the game.
So you got a brand new IP that has had no previous entries in it, and it's not marketed, and it's made by a team that are known for single player experiences that are now doing a live service thing. It's like, it's like I don't mean to kind of sound cynical and go, what did you expect? But at the same time, if you're not going to market it, then make sure you've got the other bases covered. But it sounds to me like they just kind of winged it everywhere.
Yeah.
And I couldn't, and this is without knowing anything about the game or speaking to the quality of the gameplay itself or the style of the gameplay. So I'll be interested to know what kind of game it is, because if it's another over-the-shoulder shooter, like, or if it's another online shooter, like Apex Legends or Anthem or Fortnite or PUBG, or this is what I mean. It's already a saturated market.
Yeah.
And especially if you're playing if I'm playing a single player, I can finish that game and then move on to something else. If you're playing online constantly, you have to keep up with the market, with what's trending. So Apex Legends is popular, so everyone plays Apex Legends, and then something else follows that. And it's like, where were Platinum Games supposed to fit this? I can't even remember the name of it.
Babylon's Fall.
Babylon Zoo or something. There's that 90s band that wrote Spaceman. Yeah, it's like, what did you expect? Really?
That's the thing. It's a third-person action game, is what it is. Like, you know, with all the melee combat that they are quite known for, but it's so generic, and I feel like their games always have like this personality or style to them that's kind of unique to them, or unique anyway in just general. And I feel like this is just this generic game with knights, and there's no uniqueness to it. And not that there really has to be. Not every game has to be reinventing the wheel. But there's just something about this that doesn't feel like a Platinum game to me.
Yeah,
and I just feel like
from the sounds of it, it doesn't even sound like a Platinum. If you'd removed Platinum games from there, I would have just said, "Oh, is EA keeping busy?"
Even like the combat, like it's melee combat focused, and it's all this co-op, you know, bring people in, and I think there's loot involved, as there always is in these games. But even the combat just doesn't seem as, like, what's the word, varied and stuff as their old games. Like, I feel like they do some of their combat in their games is like some of the best I've ever played. Like, I love Metal Gear Rising, and I think Vanquish, I know that's a shooter, but I've really enjoyed what I played of that on our Twitch channel.
Yeah.
And I just feel like they do gameplay so well, and when I look at this, I'm like, it doesn't even seem like the same team. I'm just curious what's even going on there.
Yeah, another example that comes to mind as well is Ninja Theory.
Yeah.
Again, much like Platinum Games, known for crafting tight, hack and slash focused single player experiences.
Yeah.
And then they were announced, and it was announced that Microsoft had bought them. Right. And then the first game Microsoft went on to get them to make was Bleeding Edge.
Oh yeah, I forgot that existed.
Which was a live service.
Yeah.
A live service, I think it was like a hero shooter, like Overwatch. And it was a live service game. It's like, why? Now I have lost all interest in anything this, like, Ninja Theory could do no wrong. They had Heavenly Sword, they had Enslaved, they had the DMC reboot, which still is not the worst Devil May Cry game.
Yeah, the gameplay of that game, I really enjoy, like, the actual playing aspect of it.
Yeah, and then they followed that up with Hellblade. And it's like, yeah, now they've announced Hellblade 2, and I'll be interested to see where they go with that, considering there wasn't really much room for a sequel.
Right.
And there was, you know, Hellblade 1 was trying to tell a very specific story there, or carry across a very specific. It was there to put across, you know, bring about the sort of add to the conversation of mental health and mental illness. You know, it had a very specific message there. It wasn't really like Hellblade 2. Now there's more schizophrenia. You know.
Yeah.
You know, depression boogaloo, or whatever you want to sort of how you want to subtitle that potential sequel. So where does Bleeding Edge fit in there?
I mean, I think for when it comes to Platinum, I feel like I mean, I agree, they always have kind of a unique, but I think their thing is putting their signature on already established documents, basically. And so, like, with for them going to the games that are listed here, for example, Metal Gear, everyone's known Metal Gear Solid as these stealth style, you know, gun-toting type, you know, and then they come in and they say, okay, well, here's a melee one where you're able to, with precision to the nth degree, slice up whatever you want. Nier is the same way, even with theirs. They did Automata. Well, Nier, the game that was before that, was very much a more linear third-person action, and then that's a spinoff of Drakengard, and Drakengard was almost in some instances more like Hyrule Warriors or a Warrior style game, where it's just really these arenas with large groups of people that you're killing and taking out.
The 1v100.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, and they come in and they're like, well, here's kind of an open world, you know, very realized. So I feel like that maybe that was what they were thinking with this is, okay, well, we understand the already well-established live service game, you know, that whole arena, but we want to enter our own hat. We want to throw our hat into the arena, and they just didn't, you know. But I mean, that having been said, going back to the question that I had asked at the very beginning, and I still like. I don't take multiplayer into account when I'm rating a game unless the game is exclusively a multiplayer game. If the way that I look at it is my game should not be rated on an experience that is not the purest version of or the purest intentions of the developer, right? So glitches and all that's part of the developers, their Q&A process, their game testing, graphics, audio, story, all of that's all taken care of and QA'd and considered acceptable or passable or whatever. The 5-year-old to 7-year-old kid in the basement yelling "get good" after he's lost a round to me, or the 20-year-old acting like a 7-year-old after he's won a round to me or whatever, that's not part of the developer experience. That's part of some random guy in their basement doing whatever. And so I can't really rate the game on that. And so when it comes to games like this, a lot of my attention, it just kind of falls by the wayside to me. It's just maybe it's a great game, but the odds that even out of the 650 people that were on there, that all of them would be amiable in conversation, and I'm just disinterested with those odds. I don't want to play the game because I feel like that maybe I'll enjoy it, and then I'll get some random person that's not so polite on there, and then I'll be like, oh, I don't hate the game, but I don't want to run the risk of getting into a lobby with this guy again, so might as well give the game up. It's an effective way to stop a game right there, is to have someone that's, the word I think gets thrown around quite a bit, toxic, but someone that's just awful in any way. It's a good way to quit a game. I think that's what we're developing.
I can't stand that stuff, man. Whenever I play any multiplayer game whatsoever, I'll put myself in a party chat, so I don't have to keep muting or anything like that, so I don't have to hear anyone.
Oh, that's smart. I didn't think of that.
And I'll just put myself in a party, so then it automatically stops you being able to be heard or hear anyone else. I do that as soon as I turn my console on every time, just in case I end up going on one like a multiplayer game and forget and stuff.
That's smart. I didn't think of that.
Wanted to point out quick that I feel like Platinum themselves aren't really sure or happy about their position. Something came out a week or two ago about they're dying to resurrect Scalebound. Do you remember that game for Xbox?
Yep, I remember.
They've apparently said they want to talk to Phil Spencer and have discussions. I don't know if that kind of hints at them even wanting to be bought, with all these acquisitions going on. But then the president said we'd like to have a proper discussion with Microsoft and with Phil Spencer about bringing that IP back. So it feels like they don't even want to be involved in what they're doing right now. And I think they're working on Bayonetta 3 though as well, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think that's in the works for Switch, isn't it? Isn't that a Switch exclusive?
It is. And that's why I was going to say, if they get bought by anyone, please let it be Nintendo, because I don't want them to get bought. I don't like the idea of this whole monopolizing type thing that's going on with these big developers, but the Bayonetta series is solid. The first one's great. The second one's even better. I feel like the third one's going to even be better. I don't care if I've got Bayonetta 312. If 311 of them are good, I'll take the next one.
I do think, not to go off topic, but with these acquisitions, I feel like it's becoming a bit more safer too. Let's say they are bought by Xbox, I feel like it'll probably still be on the Switch, any future Bayonetta games. I feel like these acquisitions are becoming more, what's the word? Not as exclusive anymore, or at least that's what it seems. I feel like it's kind of pick and choosy still, because Bethesda games are apparently going to be exclusive, but Call of Duty isn't, and then Bungie's games aren't going to be exclusive for Sony. So I feel like they're pick and choosing, and I feel like it's like we talked about before with these subscriptions. I think it's going to be more of a focus on that than exclusive games in the future.
What I thought?
Yeah, I feel like if they were to be bought by Xbox, I feel like Bayonetta would still be on Nintendo. You never know, do you?
The reason I say that is I thought that Bayonetta. This could be me just being wrong. But I thought that Bayonetta 2. The reason Bayonetta 2 was made is because no one else would help them in procuring the funding. And so they come to Nintendo. Nintendo's like, yeah, it'll be exclusive for us, but yeah, we'll fund it. And then we got Bayonetta 2, which is a really good game. So
that reminds me of, and not to bring you back up again, but Street Fighter 5. Like Sony helped them fund that game, which is why it was exclusive to PlayStation.
Yeah, well, and I think that's the thing. I think it's important when you have. I mean, if you are going to be acquired or work with a company, I think it's best you work with a company that has shown that they believe in you beyond what would may be considered reasonable. And so like if it's Bayonetta 2 is not going to get made unless and Nintendo's like, no, we believe in you. But Bayonetta 1 was fantastic. Make it exclusive for our console. We'll give you the funding, and then they make it, and it's amazing. And I know I gush a little bit on it, but it is a really genuinely good game. Like, I feel like that would be who I'd want to side with. So, but yeah, I mean that's just my take. So, I mean, that does kind of answer it, but I guess I'll ask it in a more blatant. Do you believe that something will be worked out between them and one of the console manufacturers, or is this the kind of the beginning of the end for them, or will they kind of resurrect with the launch of another big single player, Bayonetta 3 type? Where do you think that Platinum's future is, knowing that this tanked?
Sean, do you want to take this first?
Well, that's the thing. Platinum's current track record has been a little bit unpredictable. Like, no one expected them to come out with Wonderful 101. No one saw Astral Chain coming, and no one's seen Babylon's Fall coming. So, really, it's kind of, I'd say it's up in the air. I don't sort of, I'm not aware of kind of the current history and development, sort of the background of the Bayonetta franchise. I haven't even played the first game, so I'll be transparent there. So I wouldn't know. Are they looking at developing Bayonetta 3, or is this something that's been?
Yeah, it's in the works. Bayonetta 3.
I think
there's a teaser trailer and everything.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it's got a trailer, but yeah.
Oh, that's
it's very basic and like it's just like a logo, I think. But yeah, it is in the works.
Well, that's the thing. That Platinum. Let me just bring up, because if I'm right, I have a working theory. Then if I'm right, it's So then, looking at this, they're not really known for, like, outside of Bayonetta, for really working on franchise kind of. Then that everything seems to be like an isolated experience. Mad World.
A single game, they don't have sequels and stuff, really.
Yeah, so it's only really Bayonetta they've done that with. So Mad World, Infinite Space, Vanquish, Anarchy Reigns, which I know was technically was it a spiritual sequel to Mad World, Anarchy Reigns?
Yes.
Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, Wonderful 101, The Legend of Korra, Transformers: Devastation. So it seems like they do really good sort of like one-shots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then they're kind of just like Bayonetta has become their derivative work. Like that's what they'll just be known for in any kind of franchise that comes off the back of that, or production that comes off the back of that. Even if no one's heard of it, as long as people sort of say, oh, it was by the it's by the Bayonetta guys, then they know what that at least they can half expect a decent hack and slash.
Mm-hmm.
Once confirmed.
Oh, they never worked with Square Enix before. Is this the first time with Babylon's Fall? Because that might not be as worrying.
Near Automata.
Yeah.
Oh right, yeah, that's true. Oh, that game is amazing though.
Yeah, it's just
this live service stuff, man. I don't know what their goal is with it and why this obsession. Like, they never work. I feel like Destiny's the one that's only ever lasted, and even then, that's had an insane amount of problems. There's 2 games. It's in a good spot and people like it, but I feel like that's the only one that's kind of lasted in a sense. Like, they've all seemed to try to follow it and just died.
I think that's more a Square Enix thing, though. They just keep trying every now and then to break into the live service market, and they've done it with not Final Fantasy as in Final Fantasy 14, but sort of like all your mobile sort of games, like what was it, All the Bravest and stuff like this. All these kind of social kind of your live service games. wasn't is it Dissidia? Is that a live service or is that a single player?
I
know it's beat them up, but
Sure.
I believe that I know Dissidia can be done offline. Whether or not it has an online element, I'm not 100% positive, but I know it certainly can be played offline.
yeah. But they tried it with Avengers as well, and I think that's
And
the
that was
biggest
Crystal
kind of-
Dynamics. It's like, why are you putting that team on a game like this?
Exactly.
They've made some great single player stuff, and then you put them on something like that, which I've heard single player in Avengers is fun, but like then it's just, I feel like with these live service games, there's just a lot of nonsense that's tacked on to try and keep you coming back, and it's never worth it. Like, it's always just mediocre, all the content that they put out.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the issue with these live service games, is it's, I feel like it's almost rushed a lot of the time to keep people coming back or keep people there. I feel like all these games just, there's nothing wrong with playing a game that's a shorter game. I mentioned this with Shadow Warrior. I heard people complaining about it. I'm like, it's a shorter experience, and that's what the game is. You don't need it to have a battle pass or like all these expansions. Like, that's what the game is. Finish it and then move on, and that's your experience with it. You haven't got to be playing it for 2 years. Like, it's ridiculous.
But I think that there's heavy incentive for companies to attempt to become the next Fortnite, or to provide or produce the next Fortnite too.
Oh, that's definitely what it is.
And
They want that game to go up like the next game. They want to be that game.
yeah, I think that that's a big, but to the other side of things, Bayonetta 3 does look. They did the gameplay trailer, which was last September-ish, and it does look.
They did a gameplay trailer.
Yeah, it does look. I
Okay.
mean, it looks fantastic. So, I mean, if I do think that if Platinum. I think that if Platinum fails in this regard, then they will always be able to look at the. I mean, like, I feel like that Bayonetta 3 is kind of the safety net. They're not gonna drop that because they know they're gonna make up a lot of profit.
Yeah.
But it looks great. I mean, I'm incredibly excited about it. So,
I think they make great games, and when I heard about this one, I was slightly worried. I was like, oh no, another team that's going to be lost to working on a live service game for the next 3 or 4 years that never makes its money back fully, and is eventually just classed as like a failure, and then you don't hear from them again.
well,
But
yeah.
hopefully, because they've got stuff like Bayonetta, and I'm sure they're working on other things, that might not happen with that team.
I mean, I hope not, and I think that these guys have a lot more hits than misses. Honestly,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know if they're big sellers though, which is it's a big thing for these companies, isn't it? They need to sell and stuff. Is Bayonetta like a big seller? Has that sold a lot?
yeah.
Anyone know? Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's. I mean, I wouldn't. It's not like a Mario or a Donkey Kong, but it's.
yeah.
I want to take a look at that. But yeah,
Assuming that's their best selling, like, but then again, it is a franchise. Like Sean said, they don't really do sequels, so can't really compare like a franchise or 1 or 2 games to like Metal Gear Rising in a way with sales, because it's more, isn't it? More or less.
It looks like. It looks. I mean, I can't see kind of total, but it looks like that the first one had sold a few million, and then it looks like that the second one had kind of an odd, rocky start, but ended up doing pretty darn well throughout its lifespan. I mean, as it is to this day, not necessarily. I know that a lot. I think that's one of the things we talked about last time, which is that everyone tries to make their profit up in like a month or two, but I think you kind of have to look at the whole lifespan of it and be like, okay, well, what percentage of people were waiting for sales because they couldn't afford it because of economic condition, and what people wanted to wait for other people. They weren't the early adopters, and they wanted to wait for other people to review it first before they would spend $60 on it or $70.
Would you guys be excited for them to revisit Scalebound or try it again, so to speak? Is it something you don't really care about and you'd want to see it just make more new games?
Yeah, that one.
Not interested in what they showed of Scalebound.
The thing is, it's what is it to be interested?
Yeah, they didn't show much, did they?
What is it to be excited about? It looks good, but then, so did the Dead Island trailer, and that turned out
I remember
to
Dead
be,
Island too. What happened there? Why?
It's sort of promotional footage is always to be taken with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
With me, whether it's gameplay or CGI, until the reviews come out, I always try and reserve opinion. So if a game never gets released, I tend not to see that as kind of like I won't sort of spend energy going, I wish that had happened.
Yeah.
Or I hope it does happen again sometimes. It's so many games coming out, and I've only got so much energy and so much time and so much money. So, I'll focus on the games that do make it to release.
Right.
So, but that's just me. That's just cynical British me.
Yeah.
Oh, go on, Retro. Yeah. Go on.
I was just gonna say. I mean, I'm kind of if they chose not to make it so much the multiplayer and chose to focus that same story and that same kind of visual into a single player dynamic, yeah, I'd absolutely love them to revisit that, just because from what I had seen of it, obviously it's multiplayer, or it was meant to be. They had it looked to me like a really nice Xenoblade style game, and I really like the Xenoblade games, kind of Xenoblade cross Monster Hunter, which I think are both great games, great franchises. And so if they could, kind of marry those two together and say, look, let's just drop the multiplayer aspect of it. Yeah, I would. I feel like with Platinum Games at the helm, I'd buy it in a heartbeat.
But, yeah.
So, but yeah, that's just me. It's still on the table technically, like you said, but I think that they're going to try and resurrect the way that it was before this multiplayer thing, and I'm hoping Microsoft can say, hey, let's not do multiplayer. We saw Babylon's Fall went. Let's do something else. So,
trying to see him do more, just like Sean said, just these one-offs, like that, like Transformers game, and just little things like that. I feel like they're these fun, just they're not too much time. Like they're these shorter games. I love stuff like that.
yeah,
I think that they could really benefit with like working on games like that. Just how good their gameplay is, and it's just this like tight experience that hasn't got any of the bullshit attached to it, all this live service stuff. And that. I actually forgot Scalebound had multiplayer like functions and stuff. That's put me off even more now. I remembered.
yeah. I thought it was supposed to have been. I mean, maybe I'm wrong on that. I thought it was supposed to have been focally multiplayer, and then
fuck that then.
Yeah, and so that was my, maybe I'm wrong on that, but that's my thing. Scrap the multiplayer, add the single player, or make it single player, and then marry those other two franchises together, and I think and put it on Xbox, and I think you've got something pretty solid there. I mean, Monster Hunter alone is really fun on those consoles, so to have something in the spirit of, but not the same as, I think is.
It would be cool,
good.
like a Monster Hunter game, but Platinum's combat. That would be cool.
Oh yeah. So, all right. So, if no one is opposed, I think we can probably move on to our final topic. Is everyone okay with that?
Yep.
No, absolutely, carry on.
No. I would like you not to move on, please.
The next hour of talking about Scalebound.
And somehow it will become Street Fighter. Which I'm okay with. But it's. I feel like that there's still I feel like that the flow of this is still fairly organic, in that we're talking about companies that are, causing trouble for themselves and trying to, extend beyond what they're capable of. And then we had what I consider to be a complete, just some of the worst news that I could possibly have gotten. And so, as I've heard, the Chekhov's gun, right? Earlier in this, I mentioned that I'm a Star Wars fan, and it is with heavy heart and great regret that I have to say that Star Wars Eclipse, that we had talked about in previous episodes and earlier, from Quantic Dream, is not going to be coming out until 2027 or 2028.
Same.
They've got this beautiful. I've talked it up in previous episodes. They've got this beautiful trailer that's got this very Star Wars meets Dathomirian vampire lore type thing, which I think is great. And it's Quantic Dream, so it's going to have story elements and multiple endings, because that's just what Quantic Dream does. and then finding out that it's not going to release for that long. And at first I thought, okay, fine, it's 5 or 6 years. We've waited over a decade at this point for another Elder Scrolls game. So, I could probably wait. And then I find out that the reason that they did what they did is because they hadn't hired enough of. They didn't have a team hired. They didn't have enough people on the team. They had to work on it. Basically, they put a billboard up that had a burger for a burger joint that hadn't been built. And that is the most frustrating thing for a hungry person to see, is that ad with that beautiful burger, and the joint won't even be up for the next several years. So, I'm curious on this. I mean, what do you guys think? I want to throw out there really quickly, if I can, just to maybe flavor it a little bit. I think that this is exactly the same cycle that we saw with Cyberpunk, where public pressure becomes so much that they feel like they have to put something out there to tantalize and get you reinterested in the company, and then they don't have the resources to do it, so inevitably they disappoint you and anyone else interested in it. And it's just this kind of rhetoric, right? This over-promising, under-delivering metric that we've started to see become more commonplace in the past 2 or 3 years. What do you guys think? Firstly, should a game be announced, and with trailer and all, should that happen this far in advance of the game's actual release? How do you feel about this incident?
I don't know what they're doing over there. Like, is this the longest time between a release and being announced? That many years? What's the longest?
So. Duke Nukem Forever, probably.
Oh yeah.
21 years or something.
Jesus Christ. But no, that's true. Yeah, and that did well, didn't it? Yeah.
When did they first announce Eclipse?
It was in the Game Awards, wasn't it? Which was December.
Yes.
This December.
Yeah, the one that's just gone.
Okay, yeah. so that'll mean it'll be in 8 or 9 years.
6.
No, sorry. I'm thinking for some reason I had it in my head that last year was 2019. So 6. So it's got a while before it catches up to Duke Nukem Forever.
Yeah. It's
got a
fact that they've shown a trailer and they haven't even got the team yet. Is that what the story was? There's no team yet to make the game.
There's no team to make the game. They had a group of animators, I guess, make the trailer. Trailer's beautiful. Make the announcement. Get everyone excited. There is no team. There was no team to make this. It wasn't like, and I wanted this. This really makes me upset because it's different when you have a team of people and then something happens and that team quits, or a key character quits out of that team. Okay, I get that. That happens. But they never had the team in the first place. Why even announce it? You weren't working on it, so this is like, it's not like you were working on the project and then you decided, oh, I'll let people know, and then the team went away. You weren't even working on the project. You had no team. All you had the ability to do was work on a trailer. So now you're going to have to figure out how you're going to make your game match what you've shown in this trailer. Congratulations, you bought yourself 6 years.
I find funny too is that they've got a couple release years. They've said 2027, 2028. How do they even know it will be done by then? They've threw that out there that they could get changed to. I think this is ridiculous how a lot of games, they get like a trailer and then it's like, and it's out in 4 years. And I don't want to sound like an hypocrite because my most anticipated game's Callisto Protocol, and all that has had is a CG trailer. So I get it's the excitement of who's involved in that is why I'm so excited. Sure. But I do think games shouldn't be released this far. This announced this far apart. It's insane. Apparently they can't get anyone to work there because of all the things that's been going on. I don't know if you guys are aware of the situation there and these accusations and stuff.
Yeah, Quantic Dream's another one of the toxic work environment.
I can't get anybody to like the team. It's really bad.
Mm-hmm. But
no idea.
I mentioned it as kind of a joke, but at the same time, I feel like the same thing. Like, do you guys remember 2 or 3 years ago when Todd Howard gave his little Elder Scrolls 6 teaser? Not even a trailer, the teaser. and yet they've had 6 versions of the game launch. I mean, I made a joke. I remember making a joke when we hit the 10-year anniversary, which would have been November 11th of last year. And I sent a thing out going, ha ha ha, it's the 10th anniversary. They've already basically released everything in my mind that they could release. And I typed out, wait till you get the 10-year anniversary edition. And sure enough, that day they launched the 10-year anniversary edition, which, by the way, had no additional content. And so, like, I don't like it I don't like it in general, but I certainly don't like it when it's Star Wars. Don't mess with my Star Wars.
Are we sure it's not just that's just the cover story, and the real reason they're delaying it is because the actual turning on the lightsaber is too fluid emotion for Quantic Dream? David Cage is just standing behind the devs going, "It is not unwieldy enough."
It is not. Meanwhile, we cut to our first gameplay trailer in 5.5 years, and it's some guy swinging the saber around poorly, going, "Jason." Just like,
to be honest, if it's a David Cage game, like, I don't know, there's accusations. There's gonna be a shower scene in this Star Wars game.
Oh yeah,
he's obsessed with them. I don't know who it'll be. It's not gonna be a guy. There's gonna be some woman in the game that's in the shower scene.
Oh yeah, but he can experiment. It'll be some alien, something or another.
Yeah, it'll be an
all the
alien.
team, they're just waiting till they've got enough money to hire Elliot Page again.
It's just, you're not wrong though. I didn't think about that, but yeah, because
it's like,
Heavy Rain had 2, and then Beyond Two Souls had. It's something with water falling on people. I think he really just likes.
There's either a shower scene or there's a woman in a lot of trouble being attacked by the creepiest guy you've ever seen. It's one of those scenes. Is always in their game.
Oh yeah, that's and it's always. I've noticed this too. Like I said, I think it's water falling on people because there's always got to be a dramatic rainy scene. A Heavy Rain, it made sense because that's the title. It would have been like if I would have titled my game Inclement Weather. You couldn't expect sunny skies. I get that, but like Beyond Two Souls, the whole truck sequence is in the middle of the pouring rain. And maybe I'm just I live in an area. I live in what is effectively classified as a desert biome. So maybe rain happens like that, and I just don't see it. But
yeah, it's to show rain to the underprivileged. This is what it looks like.
Meanwhile, I'm sitting here going, "Where is water a real thing, or are people just yanking my chain?"
Mummy, Daddy, why is that woman's hair shiny?
And of course, living in Texas, of course, they can remember that's oil. Just mind your business.
Well, I think to give a serious answer to the whole rain thing, it's because Quantic Dream always want to be on the cutting edge of realism, don't they?
Yeah,
and the hardest thing to get more realistic in a game is water and water physics.
Yeah.
So obviously, the first thing you're going to want to do to make your game seem more realistic is focus on the wet things. So have someone swimming, have someone in the shower, have someone in the rain. You know, it's because if you can get that looking realistic, then in David Cage's eyes, the game's paid for itself. So I remember when I first saw a trailer for Heavy Rain, and like I remember it reminded me of how I felt when I first saw the Silent Hill trailer, as this is the most realistic thing I've ever seen in CGI. The Ethan Mars, is it? And I just thought, oh wow, they've actually managed to scan David Duchovny straight into a computer. This is the most advanced computer graphics game graphics will ever get, and then find out that was in game. But that's always the focus, and then it's story, and then it's actual gameplay. So that'd be my concern, is like how a Quantic Dream going to make the gameplay to Star Wars? How are they going to like have you develop a third thumb so you can push like 5 different triggers all at once, and then rotate the right analog stick in the opposite direction of the left one? And
which to be fair, I thought. I like Quantic Dream games. I liked. I was Indigo Prophecy. I don't know why I was about to say Fahrenheit 451. It's a Bradbury book.
It was called Fahrenheit over here, in the UK, wasn't it? And then it was
called Fahrenheit here.
You're right. Okay, yeah, I was saying the 451 though. That's the book. That's the Ray Bradbury book. But
I'd to see a game version of that, and that'll probably be handled by Quantic Dream as well.
You want to play an actual? Yeah.
I'd love to be a fireman.
I think that you caught me off guard with that.
Oh shit! He knows what he's talking about.
It wasn't even that, but it was just the casual placement and how fluid it was in the conversation. And I'm sitting here like, yeah, and oh wait a minute, yeah. That was great. Oh, excuse me for just a second. Yeah, I apologize. I'm having to be really fast on that mute button today. But so I do enjoy Quantic Dream games on the whole. I mean, Beyond I think was pretty weak personally.
Yeah, that's my least favorite.
But I liked Heavy Rain. I liked finding the endings there. Indigo Prophecy was fun. I thought Detroit was great. I honestly thought they did a really nice job of hitting a topic that I feel like is a real topic, and they made it fun as well. But so I guess I wasn't. It's not just like, oh, Star Wars. I like Star Wars, therefore I'm excited. It's I like Star Wars, and as far as Quantic Dream goes, I think they gameplay wise hit or miss, but I think story wise they know how to write a story that is compelling to me.
Yeah, but then they're really good at telling very personal stories as well. Like if you were to say, oh, they're doing a game tying with The Mandalorian or something.
Yeah,
that could work because that is a very kind of personal journey story, and you could see that being happening. Whereas something sort of far wider in scope probably wouldn't work to Quantic Dream's kind of sort of skill set as well.
Oh yeah, no, I mean they do a good job of getting you to care about you said personal, and that's a good way to say it too, but to care about those few characters that they put the focus on. I don't think I mean it is technically, I guess it could be a spoiler, but the game is over a decade old, so I don't think it's that bad. But in Heavy Rain, there was a part of me, and at that point in time I was not yet a father, but like that, there was a part of me when he cuts his finger off for that was like, wow. And part of that was the acting was just great there. Like that crying and struggling was really good from the voice actor, I think. But then also the stories, that moment where it's like, oh wow, they're really just showing how devious someone is and how far someone will go to protect someone, especially knowing the what you know at the very beginning, you know, the whole thing that he holds himself accountable for at the beginning. So they do a really good job of making these several different tie-ins that are relevant in shaping one character. And so to hear that in Star Wars, I feel like that even if they started with a blank slate, by the end of it, I'm gonna care about at least one of these characters, probably more than I would even just watching a season of The Mandalorian or the Book of Boba Fett or whatever, you know, whatever your poison is. But then I find out that the greatest story that they can tell is that they're launching a game. And I realized that may be almost as fictitious as the stories they tell otherwise. And I'm like, oh.
In terms of the original question, unless you've got something like a genuine proof of concept, or no, you need to have more than a proof of concept. You need to have actually something to show.
Yeah,
for it. It's why I don't put any stock in CGI trailers, because that CGI may be made especially just for that, and it may be just to show you that something is in the works. It's not an actual part of the game itself. Show me something that is going to be part of the game itself, so that one, I can gauge and form an opinion of the direction it's going, sort of artistically, because I have no hands-on experience with it, and two, to prove that you've actually gone some ways into making it. And then if it's cancelled, then you can be upset about it. But at least we know that something's being made. Don't just. And in the case of the Callisto Protocol, I'd say that one's kind of a little bit justifiable because that was some of the team behind the original Dead Space.
Yeah, that's my point. Yeah,
and that was more a case of, oh look, the guys that made Dead Space are making something else because EA isn't interested in Dead Space anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly why I'm excited for it.
Yeah, exactly, and I'm excited for it too. But as long as the Callisto Protocol comes out sometime in the next year or so, and that's great. If that gets pushed back to 2030 or something like that, then what was the point in releasing the trailer?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I guess another question that I have that tethers off of the back of this, not specific to this game, but to the general question being asked, is, and I think the answer is inevitably right, but how will and how much or to what extent will this be exploited for people who have who, and I don't know if that's a big group anymore, but the pre-order, the people that ride the pre-order, hype, and they go out and they're excited about a game and they put $5 or $10 or $50 down on it, waiting for it to come out, knowing that it's paid for. And these game stores, I know a lot of them are probably fine, but I know several of them are, they'll move the pre-order over to another game that you didn't have that you might be interested in, or they'll pocket the money if it's after a certain amount of time. Like, to what extent are these guys basically perpetuating additional dubious practice inside of the gaming industry, albeit on a different level? It's something of a dubious practice to announce a project that you have no resource to generate, but then it's also, I think, giving way to several other, firstly to other developers to say, oh, I don't really have to have a project to make a pitch, and then secondly for people to say, hey, I can take money before a game's come out and allocate that as I feel like I need to, based off of the amount of time that passes between here and the actual release. So
there aren't pre-orders for this game, are there, yet?
I don't know. I would have to ask.
That would be insane.
Lord, I'd hope not.
I do know.
That's what I mean.
I do know, and I'm not saying this because I know with this game, but I do know with GameStop here, they usually, once it's been announced in a formal fashion like this, a trailer or something, it's put out it's available for pre-order that next day or that same day, later that same day.
Trying to look on their website, I can see sign up for updates. I can't see any pre-order though.
Well, and to be fair, they've shut down a lot of their stuff. I mean, even you used to have conferences you'd go to as a if you were in management of any kind, you would go to these conferences, and they were a lot of fun, and they've shut that all down. So, I mean, I know it's a completely different topic, but I feel like that they may be on their last legs as it is, and I feel like a lot of that is adding fuel to the dubious practice thing that I'm a little concerned about, because I feel like that their website and their experience for their workers and their pay scales and all that is kind of shrinking inwards, but their willingness to do anything to continue to persevere is expanding, and that goes beyond the circle of good practice.
Yeah, because it's one final push, because we don't know how long we've got left.
Exactly.
So let's, without, pardon my French, let's be as shitty as possible while we still can.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess this is kind of a weird, not meant to be a tangent, but kind of a weird connection. But I feel like that it's kind of, I don't know if it's intrinsic necessarily, but I definitely think it creates perpetuity when you go from dubious practice from the game developers to the retail side. I think that kind of gives you this ability to, and here's the other thing too, and I know that this has happened for a fact in previous years. What happens when you have a game that has been announced that is available for pre-order, and the developer waits on the release of the game based on what numbers are reported to them as having been pre-ordered, and then says, okay, well, that's not enough interest for us to actually go ahead and fund this. Retailers, do what you want to do with that money, do what you need to do with that money. We're going to announce it as canceled in a year.
I have my own thoughts on pre-order culture, in that I just don't think it should exist anymore. especially with the rise of digital sales. It's just the only time you should really be pre-ordering anything, well, the only time I've ever done it is if I've seen a game that's definitely coming out, it's got a set date. I may, if I really, really want it that badly, and I think I did this with Street Fighter V Champion Edition, Doom Eternal, and Final Fantasy VII Remake. So basically, those 3 games all in the span of 1 month before their release, because they all released from March to April. And I was like, okay, COVID's just hit. So I probably can't get to the store, so I'll pre-order it so I can get it delivered to me.
Yeah.
But that's the idea of being able to pre-order like digitally is just insane to me. But yeah, they really shouldn't have. I really don't subscribe to the whole pre-order culture, because it's like, if the game's not out, you can't buy it.
Yeah.
And I get it with because what it's done now is look at how many PS5s are out there versus how many people actually own a PS5.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what pre-order culture has done to the gaming market. It's created it's just made life wonderful for scalpers.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I know this spins off a little bit. This may have been a part of a topic. I think this is a part of a topic we had spoken about prior to, but it's kind of, so this is going to sound completely off base for just a second, but I'm sure it's the same. I'm hazarding the guess that it may be the same or similar over there. But where we are, if you go to a grocery store, you can go and do your entire day's worth of shopping, which could take you an hour or two, maybe even more, and then you can go and check yourself out and go through the bag your own groceries and all this kind of thing. And you don't get paid anymore. You don't get any discount. My opinion is, if that's going to be the case, if you go through all of that, you should be given a discount, because you've effectively become an employee, or you're effectively working on that, or there was basically no expense, save for the groceries that you bought. There was no expense in addition to those groceries that you've accrued, and you've even saved money by not having to have a person working at that check stand. And so, as that stands, pass those savings on. And I feel like that it's much the same with physical to digital, where you can't treat those two the same. Physical, if somebody wants to have all the extra statues and art books and such, that's fine. They can pay the full price. They can have the pre-order. When it comes to digital, pre-order doesn't make a difference. They're not getting all the physical stuff. They're not even getting the physical game. And because they're not getting the physical game, you're not having to print covers. You're not having to print discs. You're not having to make cases. Pass those savings on. Digital should always be a little bit cheaper, 10, 20, 30% cheaper than a physical version of a game.
100%.
So
absolutely, there's just no argument there. If there is no physical production or material cost to the distribution, if there is no physical cost to the creation or distribution of a game, then no, the cost of that physical creation and production and distribution should not factor into the sale. Absolutely.
And at the same time, too, the biggest argument that I've had about that is, well, marketing and advertising. And to me, I mean, my answer to that is, all right, well, you're doing that for everybody. So at the same time, either you can give those who are contributing to your bottom line by not purchasing the physical and requiring you to print all of that stuff out, you can give them the discount, or you can factor up the cumulative discount that the cumulative savings that you've made from them, from the total amount of people purchasing digital, and then
make an average price across the board.
Exactly, yeah, and then just knock the take that average and then knock the and inevitably your games are not going to be $70 or $60 anymore. They're going to be $40.
Yeah,
because you've saved all that money. But that's not how you're going to operate. You're going to try and make as much as possible. So I use the grocery store analogy because I feel like that it's as crooked as this gaming piece, where when you're not. The name of the game should always be, and I understand in business, to make some kind of a profit, but when you are when somebody else is going through the effort of doing something that is potentially even less than desirable, right? I prefer physical copies myself.
All the time, because you don't know what's going to happen to sort of if you don't have enough space on your hard drive to keep a game, you delete it, and then that game can be like the PT in case of PT on PS4.
Yeah.
It not only gets delisted, but you cannot re-download that game. And if you've paid money for that game, then you don't want that to be an option. So of course, and physical is in my mind the best option too.
Simpsons PS3 is a good example of that too. So I mean, yeah, and that's a game you paid $15 for. So I mean, yeah, I agree with you. But there are some times where getting digital is going to be more convenient. So your savings are not passing on this. The sales that you have are not because of people buying digital. They're because you have a sale with that developer. And if you go to the GameStop or the whatever game store you have, you're going to see that same markdown on a physical copy of the game. In that case, yeah, I'm going to get the physical copy of the game. But I'm snowed in. I really want to play a game. I don't have time to wait. I buy a digital version of a game. It's full price. That full price should not be the same as the full price at the physical store. I bought it digital. You didn't have to do anything to make that. Your advertising or whatever could have been made, and I can make your little banners that go up on the site. Like I could make that in Photoshop, no problem. It'd take me 5 minutes, and I wouldn't charge you a dime.
Exactly. So. What about you, Ash? Where are you with are you buying all your PS5 games physical at the minute?
No, I'm always half and half. Like, I do agree that. I do say I prefer physical, but there is at times that it's just more convenient to just get the digital version. But I do agree they should be cheaper. I think I want to find the person who actually disagrees with this and see what they're smoking and hear what their reason is.
Yeah.
Because it's insane. Like, there's no reason. It makes no sense. Like he says, they're not printing. They don't even do manuals anymore, do they?
No.
They haven't done that for a while. But I'm 50-50. Like, some games I'll buy physical, like I bought Elden Ring physical. There wasn't really any reason, because I sometimes sell games anyway. Like, I'm not a collector. It just depends on the game, I guess, and that kind of thing. I'll give a lot of smaller games digital, obviously, because there's not physical versions, and I'm a huge indie fan and stuff. And I feel like sometimes you have to wait for these, like, special editions or this limited run stuff to even get any of these physical ones, which are always like much more expensive. But I am a big indie fan, so I'll get a lot of digital stuff there. But when it comes to like bigger games, I'll sometimes get physical, but it's always just dependent on the game. But I do agree with you guys that like the fact that it's the same price is insane. And even some of these digital versions are even more because of all this ridiculous like extra stuff you get. You get like the soundtrack or like comic novels. I can't remember what game that did that. You get like an art novel with the special edition and it's like 90 quid. This looks like a couple outfits and a soundtrack and all this stuff, and it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, sounds like the Resident Evil 2 remake, that one does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I just that's just me personally, but I agree. I do think that yet again this particular game, we kind of had gotten off the topic of the digital versus and all of that, but like my point in this is with this game, if you're talking about me having to pay extra for a digital version or whatever because you decided to put marketing out 6 years before you even intended to launch the game, that's not my problem. It shouldn't be my problem, rather. It will be because I'm going to have to pay the full price. But yeah,
you're not going to not buy the Star Wars.
Yeah, no, that's not an option for me. No, but I mean, I really would like to see if I had to. I mean, obviously, if it's one of those things where I feel like I need to take a stance and be like, nah, you know what, fine. And then they tank, and then inevitably it goes down to 99-cent bin. Then yeah, of course I might. But they put a trailer out before they had a team organized, technically as a part of marketing. So there's the money that they poured into the trailer, the development team, because these are these models that if you've seen the trailer, it's a really gorgeous trailer. It's been, I mean, I don't think that they pulled these models. I think these were sculpted specifically for this trailer from artists from, and in this engine, whatever engine they're using, I'm not sure. And they have all of the money that they spent in that. They have all the money that they spent in procuring a spot at the VGA to make the announcement, which is advertising that they had to pay. And so that's already a ton. I mean, that's tens of thousands, if not, it's tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands, just to get all of that stuff put together, depending on how long it took, how many artists it took, how much they were charged for the spot to advertise, all of that kind of stuff. And whatever other places that trailer has gone also you have to pay for advertising on a lot of those platforms as well that are not, YouTube. And so you've already spent, let's say, $200,000 on advertising that's going to cause my 6 year from now game, whereas almost a decade of my life will have passed in waiting for this. I'm gonna have to pay probably $70 because you've racked that cost up over and 6 year development span too. You're racking costs up over that duration as well. So yeah, the digital version of this game is probably not going to cut us any breaks there. The physical version of this game is probably going to be insane. But I also find $70 games to be kind of insane already. So,
I mean, Quantic Dream games tend not to hold their money when it comes to the second-hand resale market. I know Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, and Detroit Become Human, and even the original PS2 versions of Fahrenheit in Indigo Prophecy can be picked up pretty cheaply now.
Yeah.
So if you're willing to wait, I'm suspecting you're not.
I guess at that point though, that's the thing. Even diehard fans are sitting there going, "Well, I've waited 6 years. I can wait 6 more months."
Exactly.
So I guess in this case, but it's frustrating. Like I said, I think it's frustrating to me because it's Star Wars, but I think it's also indicative of a bigger problem, which I think yet again we started seeing before that, but I think we saw the best version of it with Cyberpunk, which was
stop showing things off before you've even started making things.
You're right. Yeah. I mean, public pressure makes you feel like you have to put something out there. And then you cave to public pressure, and then now all of a sudden, I mean, that public pressure is not going to get better. Now that you've made the announcement, you're going to be held accountable by that announcement. I mean, people, and I looked at the reaction to this too from the 2028 release date, and like people are not happy. Just not even necessarily Star Wars fans, but fans of games in general, fans of Quantic Dream, like everybody that would even have seen this article are like, yeah, that's stupid.
Yeah, and it could be holding fan demand, sort of holding the studio to ransom under fan demand. It's like, I don't know how much TV either of you watch, but if you noticed lately, more and more sort of end of season episodes of shows have started finishing with cliffhangers.
Oh, I haven't noticed.
It's a really weird thing. I noticed it with shows like Santa Clarita Diet and all different shows like that. They'll tend to finish their most recent season with a cliffhanger, and it's for probably the same reason. It's because they want to create fan demand to browbeat the studio into giving them another season with. And it could well be the same case here. Is they have no specs, or they've not got started on making a Star Wars game, but they've got the rights to it.
Oh yeah. And
so now they've gone, they haven't even got the team to make it, so they've released a trailer, and now they can turn around to the studio now that fans know it's coming and going, you have to let us make it now, and because you can't let the fans down, can you? Because look at how they're excited for. And it's like I say, it's using fan demand to hold the studio to ransom, saying, well, you've got to let us make it now because we've released a trailer.
Yeah, but in the case of Santa Clarita Diet, like that one started, I mean, that ran for a couple of seasons, so you at least got the product, and then what was it, 3 seasons?
Yep, finished on a cliffhanger and then was cancelled.
Yeah, and it's I mean, I would love to see what I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but the cliffhanger was great. I thought it was I thought it was cool. And I like Timothy Olyphant. So
it really did sort of set up a sort of an unpredictable direction where the next season could go.
Yeah,
but as is the case with that, it kind of proves that it doesn't always work.
Sure, yeah, but you got, I guess in that you got something. You got 3 seasons of it. You got the characters and the development and the story, and and then yeah, you held them at ransom to say you need to make another season because they like the previous seasons and they really want to know what's going to happen here. But like, there's no trade-off here. Like, Quantic Dream didn't give us anything. It's like, hey, we made Detroit. Oh, cool. Well, I was interested in that. Hey, we're making Star Wars. Fantastic. We're going to make it in 6 years. Great. What do I get in that time frame? You can wait. Oh, okay. Well,
yeah. So you're getting the Star Wars game, so that's all they need to offer you.
Yeah. Well, that's fair.
Not you personally, but surely there's probably some fans out there that are going to be hanging on to every word about this game that's going to be sort of coming out with sort of fevered kind of desperation, wanting to know what's going to happen. And some people will just be like, okay, when it comes out, it comes out.
Oh no! When I heard that they were delaying it, I developed a twitch. So.
Oh dear. He's in deep, folks.
I developed a twitch of the eye. I started scratching my arm, even though I can't take this game intravenously. I started really wanting to.
Yeah, and meanwhile, I'm on a completely sort of the other side of the road with my own little picket sort of sign going, "Where's Carl Catan? Where's Carl Catan?
Bring back Kip Duron."
That's it. I just want Carl Catan.
I do too.
Because there aren't enough bearded Star Wars.
I really would love if they would recanonize and make another installation of the Jedi Knight series.
So I got excited when The Force Awakens was announced. But this is back when it was really first announced. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I know what happens when Luke starts his own Jedi Academy, and I know who he keeps trying to get involved in that. So maybe we're going to get some Carl Catan action there, get some dark forces going on.
But yeah, well, and sadly we didn't. But then none of the new movies come out, and now we know that there's probably not a good. I don't know if anyone's seen the Book of Boba Fett through.
No.
The damage that the movies did to the potential of a Kyle Katarn and such, or at least the damage that it did to making that easy to write. Book of Boba Fett has done a decent job of making some repairs too, in a big way. So I don't want to spoil anything else because I feel like that seeing the episode, if you are a diehard fan, like it's almost emotional.
Nope. Keep it there, then I'll find it for myself.
I will absolutely. What about you, Mr. Ash? Anything? I apologize. I've rambled on. Star Wars is obviously something I'm very passionate about, but.
Oh, you're fine, man. I just keep wondering about this with that game specifically. That it's 2027, 2028. We'll probably likely be onto the next gen of games then, or it'll just be ending on this like the PS5s and stuff. Yep. It's going to be interesting. What's even like if they're working on the game, how it's even going to. Well, when they start working on the game, how it's even going to turn out in the end, like what it's going to be.
Yeah. Do you agree that it? Because I agree with you. I think that 7 years has been the standard cycle for the console. So 2027 would be the last year of PS5, and the end of that would be the first year of PS6 if it follows the same metric as has been before.
I think it'll happen, and I think we'll get pros in between as we did with the PS4. I think there'll be like a PS5 Pro and another version of the Xbox and stuff. But yeah, I think it'll end around then when that game's apparently coming out. Could be delayed even more. You never know.
And do you think the game will have the same kind of dissonance that we experienced with like the intergenerational, cyberpunk?
Maybe, yeah, possibly. Like, so I want to know what kind of game it is. Like, have they confirmed it's like a Quantic Dream game, or are they trying something different? Does anyone know?
As far as I know, it's only confirmed that it is made by Quantic Dream. So I think the assumption is that it will be made in the style of the Quantic Dream games, but I wouldn't mind. Because I find that with
like the teams, at least I do, it's just a habit that I always think when they're working on a new game, I think of the genre they made before anything's confirmed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like when Guerrilla was announcing that when they were working on a new game before Horizon, I just had a shooter in mind because of their involvement with Killzone. So it's not like teams can't do this new thing. It's just I'd be really intrigued to see Quantic Dream make a game that's not like a Quantic Dream game. But then again, I don't think you work with those guys to not do their thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think they want this story-driven stuff. I think it could work out pretty well. I like Detroit. I like bits of Heavy Rain, but I'm not a fan of... I won't go into detail. I just don't like David Cage.
No, that's fair.
I'm not a fan of him, and he creeps me out a little bit.
David Cage.
Sure.
I just find him weird. He's like very pretentious, but I don't know. It's be interesting. I'll find out when it's like when I'm like, God knows how old. Jesus.
We're pushing.
So it's a long way. I'll be talking about Street Fighter 7 when this game's coming out. So.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I could rant and ramble on about that. The whole.
I hope it's good. Like, I hope it's good. I like Star Wars. I'm not huge into Star Wars. The last few films kind of soured my taste on just being excited for it. The mainline films, that is.
Oh yeah.
But I like the originals. I like bits of the prequels. I've never really watched any of the shows and stuff. Want to though. I'd like to get back into it a bit more and things like that. Like, I love that Jedi game. I always mention that on here from Respawn. I've enjoyed a lot of games before, so I do want more Star Wars games. So, and I'm glad it's just not another. If it's going to be Quantic Dream, it's going to at least have its own style, and it's not just going to be another action Star Wars game, which I feel like that's all that ever happens with that franchise when it comes to games.
Which luckily we have 2 or 3 others that are in the works up until that one that can help tide us over. Those of us that are.
That's true. Respawn are doing a bunch, aren't they? And KOTOR remake, obviously.
Right, yeah. Which I can now play. Thank goodness.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I could rant and ramble for a couple of hours on what I want them to do with that, but instead of doing that, I'll turn it to say that was, I think, the majority, if not all, of the topics that we've covered, and just wanted to see what all you guys might be up to, if you had additional topics, or if you want to mention the goings on of your respective channels.
Go on. You want to go first?
No, I'm just glad we managed to get one topic that didn't turn into a conversation about Street Fighter.
Which topic was that? Because I did just mention Street Fighter again. It might not have happened.
Did you? Oh shit!
It's only because it's coming up when it's more combat, the new one of those, then it'll shift to that.
Does anyone Star Wars
to
Eclipse?
Summarize, everything revolves around Street Fighter, and you should buy the new Pokemon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Maybe Ryu will be in the new Pokemon, because Ryu's in everything like right now. He's like a guest in every game. So
I did want to say last week how with new sort of mildly bearded Ryu, how confusing it would be if you took his bandana off and stood him next to Chris Redfield.
Yeah.
Did you see there was a meme of that where they put Chris's outfit on him and it actually did look like him.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's brilliant.
Anyway, I don't know why that just popped into my head. It was just standing there, imagining Ryu in Pokemon, and people walking to him and thinking he was Chris Redfield instead.
I feel like Ash should be making these games, and he'll always put that tinge of Street Fighter in it. So like, I buy the next Pokemon, whatever the version is that he makes, and throw it in. I caught a Dulcim. What the heck is that?
Hey, I still stand by that Dulcim should have been in ARMS. That was a missed opportunity. Do you remember that Switch game?
That would have been.
Would have been the best guest character ever, and they missed it. The idiots.
Yeah. It's certainly more fitting than Michael Jackson in Ready to Rumble boxing.
Oh my God, I remember that. Wasn't one of what's his name? The president, the old president. He was in it, wasn't
Clinton?
he? Yeah, Bill Clinton. Oh my God.
Oh, that's. That will.
We need a new Ready to Rumble game.
I was trying to think what the other that they had. Was it NBA Jam? They had a version of that had Hillary Clinton in it.
I know there was the old one had. No, I'm talking about the sprite-based one had Scorpion and Sub-Zero and Raiden in. And part of me wants to say that it had Bill Clinton in it as well, or Hillary.
I thought it had one of the two of them. I mean, I don't know which. which one, but yeah.
What we're basically saying is the Clintons need to be more fighting games.
Yes.
It comes down to it.
Yeah. Currently they're in the only fighting game they're playing is our current state of affairs.
Yeah.
I'm not going to opine either way on that. I'm just going to say that that's an arena that they're in, and anybody that knows anything about them knew that already. But you didn't have anything to
No,
have us.
I'm good. We've talked about Street Fighter, I think exclusively. I'm happy with that. Yeah.
All right. Anything to look forward to on your channel, upcoming or otherwise?
Yeah, new review coming next Saturday is going to be Comic Zone. So any Mega Drive fans, Genesis fans, looking forward to that. That's going to be coming up, and I've also got most of my reviews ready for the April to July quarter for the year. So I'm going to look forward to editing all those. So staring at Audacity a whole bunch over the next few weeks. But yeah, look forward to Comic Zone review going public. It's on Patreon at the moment, but it's going public next Saturday.
Very nice. Fantastic. That is awesome. And what about you, Ash? What do we have on? What do you have planned and on the horizon?
I've got a new review that I'm working on, as well as a few other videos for my channel. Besides that, I'm probably not that this means anything because this isn't even live, is it? I'll probably just go and play some games on Twitch for a few hours in a minute, unless Elden Ring stops me in my tracks. We'll see what happens. I've got a review on the way and a couple of stuff I'm working on. So yeah.
All right, and I will try. I had forgotten about that in the last one, but I'll make sure to do it in these ones as well. Is to make sure I'm putting the links to your Twitch channel and Patreons respectively in there as well, if that's all right. Just so everybody knows where they can find support or otherwise see what you guys are up to.
Same with you, by the way. Remember to put your side channel in there too.
Which?
Your card one.
Oh, I
forget it existed?
No, it wasn't that. I was just, for whatever reason, I'm working on. I'm excited. So I get to plug a little bit. I'm still working on trying to get
fun.
Yeah, exactly. It's just. You want to see PC nudes? I can show you a complete bare solid state drive in perfect working condition.
All his OnlyFans will be retro, and he's got a bunch of cards in his fingers like Gambit.
No, his OnlyFans will literally just be the extractor fan for his power pack.
You want to see what a genuine copy of Chrono Trigger looks like on the inside? But like, there's so many different things I'm trying to work on, and I've been a little bit slowed by having been sick, as well as one of my microphones had gotten busted, and it has been since replaced just a couple of days ago, so that's not too bad. But yeah, I'll be working on, I'll hopefully have some new stuff on Mechanos cards, but I am working on videos for another thing that'll be coming up on the channel called Squitchy Bits. And then I have Retro Tech, or Retro Tech Talk, which will be some really cool live action stuff. So Squitchy Bits will be funny kind of reviewy type stuff, and then Retro Tech Talks will be focused on looking at some of the stuff that I use to like capture and get the best sound out of a microphone, that kind of stuff. Just interesting random things that some people have expressed interest in. So I don't know when those will be out just yet, because of things are a little bit chaotic right now with me being sick, as well as some other stuff that's happening in the personal life. All of it's good. It's just a lot to do. But yeah, I should have that hopefully coming up pretty soon. Other than that, I can be seen streaming. I generally stream on Sundays. So you'll likely get to pop, if you pop in or are able to. I usually stream for an hour or two with my wife there at the Retro Room channel, and then those are all archived to be seen as well. So that's where I can be found. So if no one else has anything else to add, I want to say thank you to everybody who's listening to this right now, anybody who's listened to this all the way through to the very end. There's a lot of Street Fighter, a lot of Star Wars, a lot of tangent, but it was a lot of fun mostly. And So I want to say thank you also to Vacant Skull for so graciously accepting to be a part of the team.
Yep.
And
You don't regret it yet, then?
no, not at all. And
I'm not trying hard enough, then.
oh God, here we go. No, but yeah, yeah, thank you to everyone, and we will catch you guys next time here on Press Restart.